Flexible open space special permit, definitive subdivision plan, scenic road, and public shade tree hearing, Benjamin Studley Farm, 214 Thomas Clap Road. Got the whole crew together tonight.
We got everybody.
We're gonna outnumber you.
Not quite.
I'm not sure that's a good sign for either of us. Why don't you update us as to what has transpired since our last meeting? In particular, I'm looking for any information you might have on the E and F.
Oh, the E and F.
It was filed, the
Yeah.
deadline for comments was the 7th, and so we expect a decision from them on the 17th.
And comments were received from,
They go right to MIPA, so I don't know.
oh, okay.
Yeah, they don't tell us until after they've closed out their record, and then if there are significant comments, they send you copies of them.
I think the town administrator forwarded copies.
Right.
Or
Yeah,
comments.
she made some comments.
The town's comments.
Okay. Other than that, what's transpired since we met last?
We've had some correspondence back and forth between Laura and us on draft special permit conditions.
Okay. Hopefully, we'll get into that in a few minutes. And Laura, from your standpoint, what's transpired since we met last?
Well, I was going to talk about the E and F and then the special permit conditions. And there was also some correspondence that I just got from Patrick Gallivan. I guess the conditions were forwarded to him by the applicants, and they got his comments on them.
Okay.
So,
So what I'd like to do, if it's agreeable with the board, I think that, personally, I'm not sure that we should wait till we get the E and F input and final decision on that. I think we should proceed with the assumption that that's going to be enacted on positively, work on the findings and work on the conditions, and then do the final vote once we get the result back, or the final E and F verbiage back. Does that work with the board?
That's acceptable?
Good, I'm starting 2014 off on a good step then. Okay. So Laura, how do you think probably be the most efficient way? I followed back and forth, and I appreciate you guys giving me the eye test with the fine small print.
maybe we should go for the ones with the comments, if, the other ones seem to be all right.
Well, I think at some point we got to go through the whole thing.
The whole enchilada.
Yeah, we should just walk through.
So I think we should start.
Well, unless you
Start-
want to start
Start
with
at
the
the beginning.
scenic road, get that out of the way.
So why don't we, because I think that there's not going to be any really major discussion on those, but I think where the discussion is going to be is on the conditions.
Yep.
So why don't we start with, because I noticed that there were comments on the findings of fact. And,
I don't know if I don't think we got comments on the findings of fact, because
Okay.
I don't think they were distributed.
okay, maybe the comments are mine then. Okay.
There was some comments from Bob.
Oh, but they were just typographical.
Yeah, but,
In
yeah.
nature.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, do you want to start with the findings of fact?
Why don't we do
I mean, I
that?
think that sort of is a logical place. So, motions.
I have them here.
Great.
Do you,
I've not seen the findings of fact.
did you want to,
We're just going to distribute one to,
State protection.
What was the last version of this thing? Where is it?
like, read through and then ask them to hold at a particular location, or if they have
well, if
questions?
you want, well, these are really yours more than
I
theirs
know.
in a way.
Okay, or if we have
So,
any,
unless they disagree with, the facts that you're finding, I mean, I'm sure they'll speak up if they do, but if any of you all have a hold on them, you can speak up.
so, Mr. Chairman, how would you like to do this? I mean, did you want to go through these one by one, or?
I think we'll go through them one by one, and then if we reach closure on them, then we can come back up and just set that aside and then go into the conditions.
Okay,
Does that work?
sure.
Yep.
And you've got a draft copy?
Of the scenic road approval or of the findings of fact?
Findings of fact.
That's just been handed to me.
Okay. We'll walk through them one by one. Where's yours, Richard?
So I don't know if you want me to make a motion or if you'd just like me to read them.
Why don't we read them and then we'll make a motion at the end.
Okay. Number 1, Fern Properties LLC filed an application for a special permit for a flexible open space development under Scituate zoning bylaw, section 550, on July 25th, 2013. Number 2, the property that is the subject of this application is a 17.59 acre parcel at 214 Thomas Clapp Road, which contains a single-family home. The property is in the residential R1 zoning district. Number 3, the proposed development is within the mapped priority and estimated habitat of the eastern box turtle designated as a species of special concern by the Massachusetts Endangered Species Act. There are primarily an upland species, but use wetlands for foraging, mating, and thermoregulating. A certified vernal pool and buffer areas to 2 additional certified vernal pools exist on the site. The disturbance of this habitat has been thoroughly reviewed by the state and the Conservation Commission, and the Planning Board is satisfied that the development will not impact these areas.
Is that right?
I think it's right.
I mean, I think you can make that statement, but it's, you know, it's you who have to make it, so.
Well, I just, it says it's been thoroughly reviewed by the state. Well, the state's in the middle of review.
The state's in
Reviewing
the
it.
middle of the review.
Yeah.
It's not exactly,
I want to say that the
Completed
state
yet.
is in the process of review, and the results of that review are expected prior to the finalizing of this
Maybe what we
decision.
could do is after the word commission, put a comma, which would make that a independent clause.
But if we vote these after they've come back up and signed off on the E and F, then in effect, we've done that, right?
Yeah, we're not
Yeah.
going, are we going to vote these tonight, Bill?
No, I think we're gonna have them all ready to go, ready to be voted.
Okay,
once
but
they've
we
got
won't,
Oh,
we'll
okay.
wait
Well,
till
yeah,
the MEPA findings
that's
come
fine.
back before we actually
Yeah.
vote.
right. So
I
this
think
is,
it makes-
So this is sort of
this is something to
tentative.
revisit when it comes back then.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, all right.
What, do you, so you want to say is in review, or does it?
Not gonna leave it,
Okay.
let's leave it just the way it is.
All right. Okay, number 4, the applicant submitted an intersection site distance memorandum stamped by Deborah W. Keller, a professional engineer, indicating site distance requirements of 350 feet were met. The applicant provided a plan showing removal of trees and vegetation at the entrance to improve site distance. Number 5, the proposed stormwater management system has been reviewed by the town's consulting engineer, David Johnson of Beals and Thomas Incorporated, whose comments indicate his concerns have been satisfactorily addressed. Number 6, as required by the Scituate zoning bylaw, section 550.4D, special permit approval, the planning board finds, based on evidence and information provided by the applicant and reviewed by the board, that the flexible open space development is superior to a conventional subdivision with the following specific benefits provided to the town consistent with those in the purpose section. A, open space parcel D is adjacent to town conservation land and provides a buffer to the wetlands containing a certified vernal pool. The parcel contains 8.92 acres of land that will be transferred to the town of Scituate as permanently protected open space. This parcel contains 6.13 acres of upland and 2.29 acres of wetland. The upland alone is greater than the minimum open space requirement of 5.29 acres.
You know, I think that doesn't add up to 8.92, so maybe we can fix that number. Do you have,
Well, I think the 6.13 is not correct. Here. Oh, it's 2.79 acres.
2.79
It
acres of,
should,
Of wetland?
Of wetland instead of 2.29.
okay,
So 2.79 and 6.13 equals 8.92.
okay, thanks.
B, The plan shows public access to the open space parcel from the Bates Lane Preserve by a walking trail connected to the Carl Pipes Trail. Okay. Number seven.
Could I interject in that, just the walking trail that will be built by the project?
I'm not sure that they're gonna build that, but,
Or funded,
It's
or, I
important.
mean, was the idea of the project was gonna support the construction of those walking trails? I guess that was my
Well,
understanding, maybe I misunderstood
Ask your
that.
question again, please.
Well, there was,
It says that the benefit is that we're gonna have a walking trail connected to the Carl Pipes Trail.
Yeah.
But my question is the proponent providing either the resources to build the trail, or are they gonna build it themselves?
I thought they were just providing the access.
No, this isn't about access. This is the actual
We're gonna
new
own the
trail,
parcel.
right?
If I may?
Yeah, the
No.
parcel will be owned by the town,
right.
right? So they don't need to provide access.
Correct.
Mr. Chairman,
Go
may
ahead.
I interject? The discussions we've had with the Conservation Commission and the folks who are maintaining the trails is that they would like to lay the trail out so that it cuts as few trees as possible. There may be some small trees that need to get cut down, and the applicant is certainly willing to go in and provide the equipment and the manpower to cut the trees down. And then, as I understand it, the trail gets laid out just as a footpath in and among the existing trees, cutting and disturbing as little as possible.
Okay, that's fair enough.
sounds reasonable.
I just want to make one note that we connect to the Litchfield Trail, the
Oh.
walking trail.
Oh, really? Not the Carl Pipes Trail?
I thought Carl Pipes was the whole,
Yeah.
the whole
Maybe that's what they
generic.
call the whole
It's,
thing.
generic is the,
Oh, okay.
okay.
Well,
Should it be Carl Pipes Trails, plural?
no, it's
or
a single trail, but
That
maybe we
one's
should
called the
just
Litchfield Trail, or?
put a
Yeah, on the-
backslash in
on the
Litchfield.
map, the conservation map that I saw, it was labeled the Litchfield Trail.
Okay,
Okay.
backslash
The Litchfield Trail.
How about connected to the Litchfield Trail, which is part of the Kyle Pipes Trail system?
Fantastic.
That's great.
all right.
I thought that's what my backslash
Why,
did, but that's
why
okay.
use one word when six will do?
See, Eric's making me into a lawyer yet.
Get paid by the letter, you know?
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Number 7, Scituate zoning bylaw, section 550.5, design standards, paragraph A, requires protection of important natural and historic features of the land and minimization of the size of developed areas. The property contains a historic home built in approximately 1850, which is proposed to be preserved. The proposed development will allow creation of open space parcel D, which contains 8.92 acres. This will minimize the size of the developed area. This paragraph requires protection of a minimum of 30% of the parcel, or 5.28 acres, as open space. 8.92 acres, or 50.7%, are proposed to be protected. 70% of the minimum open space area, or 3.70 acres, must be upland. 6.13 acres of upland is provided. The plan thus meets the design standard of Scituate zoning bylaw, section 550.5A. 8, Scituate zoning bylaw, section 550.5, paragraph B, requires that construction and laying out of developed areas respect the natural features of the parcel, applying 6 guidelines as follows. Guideline 1 encourages site disturbances beyond the paved area of the road to be minimized and open space to be maximized. Guideline 2 recommends that open space includes buffers to wetlands. These are met by the preservation of open space as indicated in finding number 6 above, and by clustering of homes to reduce land clearing. Guideline 3 recommends preservation of adjacent trees along or open space adjacent to existing roads. Some trees are preserved along Clap Road by Drainage Parcel C. Drainage Parcel B, also adjacent to Clap Road, will be constructed wetland with trees and vegetation designed to enhance stormwater treatment and habitat creation in a former grass depression area. Guideline 4 recommends locating water and utilities under road pavement. Where possible, water lines were located under roadways and underground utilities will be used throughout. Guideline 5 indicates use of low-impact development, LID, drainage techniques. LID drainage was provided in use of rain gardens, a stormwater pocket wetland adjacent to the road, and reduced land clearing due to clustering of homes. Guideline 6 states curb cuts should be minimized and conflicts with existing traffic should be avoided. One existing curb cut will be used for the development. Number 9, Scituate zoning bylaw, section 550.c, requires provisions satisfactory to the planning board for protection and maintenance of common land and common facilities. The open space in this development will be owned by the town. A homeowners association will own and maintain the stormwater areas of the site, including the rain garden in the center of the cul-de-sac island and the additional rain gardens on site.
Excuse me, I think that should be 550.5C,
3 5s?
3 5s.
550.
555.5.
5.5,
Wait.
550.5,
0.5C.
0.5, and
Okay.
then C.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask, do you want us to hold comments and questions about the various findings until after you've completed the reading, or to bring questions up as we
Do them as we go,
come to
yeah.
them?
Just yell out hold and we'll work them out.
Okay, hold on number 9, please.
What's your concern with 9?
That the homeowners association will own and maintain the stormwater areas of the site, including the rain garden in the center of the cul-de-sac island and the additional rain gardens on the site. It is our expectation that any of the stormwater management features that are within the roadway right-of-way at least have the potential to be accepted by the town when the town accepts the road, if and when the town accepts the road. So having it stated that the homeowners association will own and maintain these is not an absolute. As I understand it, sort of standard practice is that if the town accepts the road, that it accepts everything within the roadway right-of-way, and then if there are drainage features that are outside that the homeowner association would maintain those.
So the rainwater garden in the center of the cul-de-sac is in the right-of-way. Are the additional rain gardens?
No.
I think no.
But in any case, this is a fact until such time as,
Unless and until it's accepted by the town, that's
Right.
correct.
right,
So we could qualify it that way, and then it's completely accurate.
right. And the decision on the town, what the town accepts is a separate decision.
Right.
Okay.
But at the get-go, the homeowners association owns it.
It is to start off with, yes.
Number 10, Scituate zoning bylaw, section 550.6, minimum requirements, states that the maximum number of lots in a flexible open space development special permit must not exceed the number which could be created through conventional development of the site. A conventional density sketch plan for Benjamin Studley Farms dated July 25th, 2013, showed that the parcel could be subdivided into 9 lots in a manner which complies with the zoning bylaw and the standards of the subdivision rules and regulations. This conventional density sketch plan was approved by the Planning Board on November 26, 2013. This number of buildable lots was shown on the Flexible Open Space Development Definitive Plan dated July 25th, 2013, submitted with the application. Number 11, Scituate zoning bylaw, section 550.6A, lot area and width and B, frontage requirements. Frontage requires the lot area, width, and frontage for each lot to be sufficient to support the dwelling, its accessory structures, septic system, and access. Based on information provided by the applicant's engineer, each lot is of sufficient size and width to do so. Number 12, Scituate zoning bylaw, section 550.C6 requires 15-foot front, side, and rear setbacks in a flexible open space development, with setbacks from the perimeter of the development equal to those of the underlying zoning. 30-foot rear setbacks required in R1. Building envelopes shown on sheet 5 show setbacks for lots 1 through 9, which meet the requirements of 550.6C. Number 13, Scituate zoning bylaw, section 550.6D requires no more than one single or two-family dwelling and accessory structure on each lot. No more homes can be built on any lot because Scituate zoning bylaw prohibits construction of more than one single or two-family home on a residential lot. See section 430.1. Number 14, Scituate zoning bylaw, section 550.6E requires open space to be conveyed to the town, a conservation trust, or protected through a deed restricted accepted by the Massachusetts Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. The open space shown on the plan will be conveyed to the town of Scituate. Number 15, Scituate zoning bylaw, section 550.6F requires restriction of further subdivision of the lots shown on the plan with a note so stating added to the plan. The special permit will include a condition that prior to the start of construction, a deed restriction shall be recorded stating that no lot in the flexible open space development may be further divided or subdivided into additional building lots, and a note shall be added to the plan to reference this condition. Number 16, Scituate zoning bylaw, section 550.6G permits the planning board to specify roadway, drainage, and utility design requirements deemed necessary to ensure adequate access, lessen congestion, provide proper drainage, protect public safety, or provide for water, sewage, utilities, or other municipal services. The applicant has agreed to provide easements for pedestrian access to the open space.
Okay, hold. Mr. Chairman?
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
We
we've
made
got-
the last sentence of proposed finding 16 is that, in fact, what we had discussed with the board is that there would not be any easements from the residential lots from the subdivision into the open space. And we won't be providing easements within the lot that's being conveyed because the town will own it, so there's no need for an easement. The town owns it and makes it open to the public. So I think the last sentence of this paragraph should be stricken.
Yeah, I think that's consistent
That was
with
just a
our last
holdover
conversation.
from,
Yep.
yeah, what we
Yeah.
got at first. So, yeah, we'll take that out.
Any other questions on the findings of fact? Or just make sure that we're,
We're not done yet, right?
Go to 17, and then I've got a couple of questions.
oh, okay.
Okay. Number 17, based on these findings, the flexible open space development is superior to a conventional subdivision and meets the requirements for a flexible open space development, section 550 of the zoning bylaw.
Full stop.
Stop.
Oh,
Going on the edge.
full stop.
Bob, you had comments?
Yeah, a couple of things. First, on the cul-de-sac and the rain garden. Has this ever come up where the town's accepted when they accept a road, a functioning, and integral water resource protection rain garden type feature? Because I bet it hasn't.
It has not.
I'm thinking, really, the DPW is probably not prepared to maintain, in the way it needs to be maintained to continue functioning, a rain garden. Either this one or many others that may come along because of the new regulations. So it'll be an interesting conversation
Well,
at the time.
and what I was thinking also along that lines is, since the question was asked about the other rain gardens are outside of the, the easement,
Yep.
would you really have the town do one and then the homeowners association do the other? You'd think that you'd want to have everything be kind of consistent with
But
one.
really, if the town has responsibility for the one within the right-of-way, then the homeowners aren't gonna take that responsibility back. Why would they?
No.
No, what I meant though is,
And the town doesn't wanna maintain the
Right,
others.
I'm
They
a-
only wanna maintain this.
I'm agreeing with you in the sense that it would make more sense to me to have the homeowners association be responsible for all of them.
That may be a negotiation that happens at the point of street acceptance.
That's the way that I
I
look
think
at it.
that's-
Having
yeah.
been-
Right.
Having been street acceptance for,
Right.
I don't think we should
Couple
write anything in here
No.
that says it's going one way or the other.
Oh, yeah.
but I think, I think
agree.
we need to indicate that the homeowners currently have initially have responsibility for it.
Yep.
If in the process of street acceptance, they can get the town to buy into it, then they buy into it.
Fair enough.
Okay?
Yeah, that's the way I would see it.
Because I see the same thing. I see the dichotomy of one group with one and one group with the other.
Sure.
or
And I think the
possibility.
general
Yep.
situation where the town becomes responsible for a number of rain gardens because of this situation recurring is probably not going to be acceptable to the DPW.
There must be a delineation even now when they do that.
They haven't
Because-
done it previously, though, is what Bill's
We
telling
can
No,
me.
when they take a street,
the
there
number of
are,
rain
there
gardens we've got
are
on
portions
our-
of the stormwater protection system that are not within
For
the.
some reason, you'd think we'd have
necessarily
one
within
in a
the
cul-de-sac already,
easement,
but we
right?
don't.
Yeah,
Miss-
maybe.
miss,
Like-
Squash it.
Like the drainage basin or whatever.
Maybe,
I think that's in the cul-de-sac.
So there is a,
but that's not in the
there
right
is
of way.
always gonna be
Okay,
that sort
yeah.
I
of,
think it is.
who's responsible, where's the delineation sort of thing.
Right, but the delineation would be the limit of the right of way.
I wonder if you say something like, until the road is accepted by the town, the homeowners, it almost sounds like, well, when the road's accepted by the town, then, that's all gonna end and something else is gonna happen, and what's gonna happen is the town is gonna maintain
Yeah, but
them.
that presupposes,
Wanna
that
word it maybe a little bit,
that presupposes street
Differently.
acceptance, and it presupposes that the town would be willing to take it over. I think you
Okay.
just leave it the
I
way it
think you
is,
can
and when
just-
you go in for street acceptance, you come back and say, you like the street, love the cul-de-sac.
Yeah, I agree. Have the conversation then. My other question was on 13.
so, I'm sorry, right now, you're not gonna add anything to number 9? Okay,
I don't think so.
okay, sorry.
And 13?
Yeah, and this is just a curiosity on my part. It doesn't call for any changes, but we talk about no more than one single or two-family dwelling and accessory structures on each lot. Does the accessory dwelling regulation still remain in force for a FOSD as it does for a normal subdivision? There's no distinction between
Yeah,
the two?
there isn't. I mean, you could condition it if you really felt strongly that there shouldn't be accessory
No,
dwellings.
I
but-
don't. I'm just curious about it.
Yeah,
It's, yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, 13 is kind of a little bit, well, I guess it's the way it's laid out. It almost doesn't feel like a finding of fact. It sounds like it's a statement of the regulations.
Yeah.
But,
well, I think you can find the regulations, and that's your fact.
Yeah, I mean, the fact is that's part of the zoning bylaws.
So let me see if I summarize what the changes that we've, number 3, we're gonna leave the way it is pending the E and F. 6A, we're gonna change so that it's mathematically correct. 6B, we're gonna make reference to Litchfield. 9, we're gonna change 550.c to 550.5c. 16, we strike the last sentence. I think those are the changes that I have.
Could I throw one more in? And this is on 7. In the first paragraph, the last sentence says the property contains a historic home which is proposed to be preserved. Do we need the word proposed?
No, you.
Which will be
just to say
preserved?
which will be preserved.
Which is to be preserved, just
Yeah, you
strike-
could just strike
proposed.
propose. Same comment on the third paragraph, first sentence.
So the development.
Strike the word proposed.
Yep.
That's it. On my side.
My changes, agree to your changes?
Hey, moving right along.
No, obviously, until we voted, it's still open, so if you want to stay up all night rewording some of these things, then I'm willing to consider them in the next meeting. Want to go through the special permit approval and conditions?
Yeah, how do you want to do that? Do you want to hit the ones with the comments, or?
Isn't there a document that has your comments and your comments?
Yes.
We can make copies of that if anybody doesn't
I
have
think
it.
I have it
I
here.
Would that
printed it
be
out, but then
good?
forgot to bring it with me, of
Okay.
course.
It's,
Who would
that's
like
just
one?
the first set.
Bob, Stephen, Richard?
I think I have it here, so I'm just gonna
I'll
look at
share
it here.
Richard's,
I can
if
overlook
you'll be
Steve's.
kind enough to do that.
Absolutely.
I just don't know which of the 50 documents
I've been
it is.
shredding old files for the last couple of weeks, and it's just amazing how much space
Yeah,
that, how
I
much
saved
time
them
it
all.
takes.
I've got a
In
stack
my,
of all the
Time?
planning board stuff, and it's just in a closet, it's terrible.
5 o'clock.
The business, we finally get to the point where we can destroy records.
What was the name of the file? There was sort of
What'd you say? You destroyed records all the way back to Lincoln?
All the way back to.
modified.
And, it was one of the banks, I don't know. Came back up and it was shredding day, so they had their big six-wheeler. And
Yeah.
had the shredding machine, we shred and shred.
Laura,
Shredder broke. It's terrible. Yep.
we all have copies of
Oh,
it
you
with
do?
the
Oh,
comments,
okay.
so we don't need extra copies of those, it's just for the board members.
Okay, I think we were only getting one or two.
I used to
Which-
just
I'm
wait
saying,
for the
which
winter to
email
come
was
and
that?
burn all those
I
papers
know,
up
was
in
it-
the fireplace.
it wasn't the one today, right?
Yeah, it was one today.
Oh,
It was
okay.
one near the end of the day, near the very end of the day. Having some long days here.
So, how are we doing this? We just,
Was this?
I think what we'll do is we'll go through and, because somehow they need to be matter of public record. So if we identify,
Oh, I put my comments in a different color, that's
if we
the
come
one.
back up and we
Yeah,
do
yeah.
1 and everybody agrees, then we'll move to 2. If everybody agrees, then we'll go to 3. If everybody agrees, then just work our way that way.
okay.
Or if you think it's more efficient, we can go to the ones where we disagree.
You still need the,
Efficient to have the
you
ones
still
where you
need the others ready for the
At
record.
some point, I've got to go back and do all of them.
Yeah.
Gotta get them all
We should
ready for
just-
the
We
record.
should just do all of them.
Yeah, let's just bite the bullet.
You only have to do half of them, because we get another subdivision, we're going to get to do this all over again.
I got it here, so.
I'm gonna look on and see if there's, well, unless, if there is another one, I'll take it. Okay, thanks.
And Eric and I can share one.
Actually, Karen had volunteered to copy these, and I said, oh, no, I don't think we'll need them, so.
It is little, yeah.
My fault.
Well, special draft conditions, those are the,
Oh, it's probably sent around like
is this the same?
4:30 or something.
No,
It has 2 colors on it. Did you get one of the black and white ones?
draft
You just
special
want
permit
color?
conditions.
No, I'm just trying to see which one I got. This
It's
was
not
the-
that.
It's not this one.
It's one that looks sort of like this.
The one
It's
with the
in
pink and the,
track changes.
and the purple,
Snail on this set of paper.
or the pink and the blue, boys and girls.
The notes are not, but the walking trail is in.
305 Country Way.
Goes out looking so good. It's 2.2.
It has been.
This has already been done.
So, can we
Okay,
give you the other one to
the
get
text is
started?
the same, it just doesn't have the header.
Dated note
She's
PDF.
saying it hasn't been done yet on the last set, we haven't seen it yet, so.
Are we ready to go, Richard?
Yeah, sure. I think so. It's really, it's this one, right? As well.
Yeah, okay. Well, we could share.
Okay. But I mean, this is the actual sort of finalized version, right?
Yeah, I think we're gonna focus on the comments, so, sorry, go.
No, you are. We're gonna focus on the one where we've got comments and responses.
Okay. So you just want me to read those, the ones that have comments?
No,
I thought you
unfortunately, I
were-
think we need to start and read. If you whip through like number 1, all construction shall be according
We
to,
don't have any comments till we get down to
we
number
say
10.
no comments,
Whip
then we'll
through
go to
down
the
to
next.
10.
Okay. So draft special permit conditions. Number 1, all construction shall be according to a plan by McKenzie Engineering Group titled Benjamin Studley Farm, a definitive open space development plan dated July 25th, 2013, with revisions through November 19th, 2013, with any additional revisions needing to conform to these conditions.
So that date should change to whatever the date of your most recent, you're doing a new set.
Is there an updated revision?
You provided an
Right now,
updated
November
plan today.
19th is it, but
Oh,
yes,
okay,
we
sorry.
did make some changes. I assume we're gonna be adding, the adjusting the waiver list and adding conditions to the plan, so I will update that with the current date.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
so-
I knew we got some pages coming around, so, sorry.
All right. Number 2, construction shall meet all requirements of the DPW, Fire Department, Building Department, Board of Health, Conservation Commission, MEPA, the National Heritage and Endangered Species Program, the State Building Code, and all applicable federal, state, and local laws and regulations. Number 3, all replacement of or connection to town drainage and installation of all water mains and appurtenances. Appurtenances? Oh, gosh.
Archaic legal term.
Again, these legal terms. Anyway,
Darn
shall be
lawyers.
performed according to the specification of the Scituate DPW. Number 4, the total number of residential dwelling units on the site shall not exceed 9. There shall be no further division or subdivision of any lot on the plan for the purpose of construction of an additional dwelling. Number 5, access to all lots shall be over the proposed subdivision road. There shall be no further extensions of the road or attachments of any other road or common driveways to the proposed subdivision road. Number 6, the drainage system shall be maintained according to the long-term best management practices, operation and maintenance plan, and pollution prevention plan, which shall be included in the homeowners association agreement.
Is there a date with that right now? Or is there a document already?
Yeah.
So we should refer to the latest date? Or will there be more revisions?
There's no revisions.
Okay, I think there is a date further on in the,
Okay,
where we talk about the homeowners association.
we can come back to it if you want.
The recent date is September 26th, 2013, that I have.
Number 7, all electrical, telephone, cable, and similar utilities shall be located underground. Number 8, lighting shall be installed as shown on the plan, subject to the approval of the approval of the Board of Selectmen. Light fixtures shall not exceed 14 foot 6 inches in height. Number 9, prior to installation of an entrance sign, a sketch showing dimensions, location, materials, and color shall be provided to the town planner.
Apparently, there should be a comma added in there.
Yeah.
To the location.
Yeah.
So required prior to endorsement of the definitive plan. Number 10, the walking trail easement shall be removed from the subdivision and easement plan. The following language shall be added as notes 2 and 3 on this plan.
So on 10, you're suggesting that because it's on the 11-19 plan, we no longer need 10? The walking trail easement?
The,
The walking
The-
trail plan was taken off during the 11-19 revision plan set, so.
so
I think it's actually on there, but I can be looking for it while they keep
yeah,
going.
My record set that I have for PDF shows that it's off, but regardless, so I mean,
Yeah.
it's off, it'll
It's
be
up,
off
okay.
on the
It's just
final
one
set.
little place where it shows up.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
An easement shall be granted to allow a homeowners association or its designee access to inspect, maintain, and repair the stormwater management system, and to allow the town access in case of emergency. This shall include an easement of a minimum width of 20 foot, which shall allow access from the subdivision road to the detention basin over lots number 2 and number 3.
And the easement, as it's actually shown on sheet 5, is 25 feet. The question, do you need this paragraph, not the paragraph, do you need the second sentence of this subparagraph? Or do you want to just change 20 to 25 feet so it's consistent with the plan?
I think that
It is. And
Well,
it's a
it's minimum width of
25 foot, yeah, it's, you exceed the
Leave it
minimum.
alone if you wanted to.
I don't think I need to change anything. It says the minimum of 20 and you're 25.
You're good.
You're an overachiever.
Oh, I see. Shall include an easement the minimum of the width. I see how you're reading it. Okay.
Okay?
An easement shall be granted to the town of Scituate, allowing the right to construct, repair, replace, extend, operate, use, and maintain all streets, water mains, and all surface and subsurface stormwater drains in, through, or under the streets and easements, should the town vote to accept the subdivision road as a public street. The above shall not be construed to relieve the applicant and his successors in title to the ownership of a portion of the land or any street within the subdivision, nor diminish in any way his responsibility to complete all construction as required by the applicant's agreements with the town, and to therefore maintain all streets and utilities in satisfactory condition until they are accepted by the town.
Do we want to leave these masculine pronouns in there?
What do you want to put, like he/her, or?
It's, maybe?
It's,
I mean, it's not a big deal, I suppose, but,
Sure. What, which one are you on?
10, bullet point number 2.
Okay.
Is that the pronoun you use, Eric, when you're referring to a corporate entity in
it's,
a
yeah,
legal document?
yeah. And, you know, most writing programs these days suggest the idea that we should avoid sexist terms along those lines as well. It's just,
Well, the applicants did kind of happen to be men, so, no,
but the owner is an it at this point.
okay.
Let's go to 11.
Anything additional?
Okay.
Okay. And I suppose then their responsibility, right?
Yeah.
Instead of his, their responsibility?
Yep,
It's responsible.
Or its?
it's responsibility.
Okay.
So
It's responsibility.
move on to 11.
Okay, number 11. The non-disturbed buffer shown on the grading and drainage plan provides habitat and a buffers to abutters. This non-disturbance buffer shall be delineated on the ground, and the landscape plan shall be revised to include this delineation as follows. Co-
Got a W7 comment here.
so you're saying there's no such buffer shown on the plan?
There's actually a limit of work shown on the plan. And in the past, I think the definition of limit of work, means an area where there isn't gonna be clearing. It's a little bit gray. I
Is this the
guess.
area
I mean,
they
it
were
certainly
putting
seems like it would
signs?
become, sorry?
Was this area they were gonna put a few signs, or?
No, this is towards the back
Somewhere
of the
else.
lots and the sides of some other lots. It's really throughout the development. There's land
you
to
can
the
see
back of
that.
the lots that was not proposed to be cleared.
May I weigh in here, Mr. Limbaugh?
Sure.
Okay, so First, the IVUS letter was addressed to the Conservation Commission and was dealing with issues that are completely separate from the FOSD permitting process. So I question the relevance of imposing a condition that's trying to implement something that Steve Ivas was addressing to the Conservation Commission in the first place. But what he, as I read the proposed condition number 11, it's suggesting that the limit of clearing that's shown on the plan should be made a permanent non-disturbance boundary that would be bounded with concrete bounds. Problem with that is that we'll end up with multiple and inconsistent sets of non-disturbance zones, where we have a property boundary that's the boundary between this land and a conservation lot that we're conveying. We have a non-disturbance zone that we're agreeing to under the Conservation Commission's permit that's different from this one. That's setting a boundary 50 feet from a vegetated wetland in one area and 125 feet along at 125-foot distance set off from the vernal pool. And then this would be a separate line that's different from either of those two. So we'd have several tens of thousands of dollars spent putting in concrete bounds, all identifying different lines. So I don't think that's a logical thing to do in the first place. As a more basic objection to it, as you've already included in your findings, you're noting that for purposes of complying with the FOSD rules, which require 30% of the land to be put into open space, you've already made a finding that there's more than 50% of the land that's being preserved as open space and conserved by the creation of the 8.92 acre parcel. And if you were to require us to put these permanent non-disturbance boundary markers up, you're then further restricting permanently the use of the land for X number of additional acres. I don't see that it's something that's necessary or appropriate under the FOSD rules to do that. As I understand it, tree clearing within individual lots is still subject to town review. And what I would suggest that we do is that we simply leave it at that we have a limited tree clearing that's approved under this subdivision plan, and that if there's further clearing that's going to take place on the individual lots, that the individual homeowners will have to come back in to have that reviewed before they proceed with further clearing. But it's not to impose a permanent non-disturbance zone.
So how does this differ from the other non-disturbance zone you're talking about that the Conservation Commission is putting in?
Okay. Why don't I have Deb show that, so I think that'll be fairly clear.
This is the 125 buffer that's going to be identified through the order of conditions. This is a 50-foot no disturb that will be defined, and then there is a 50-foot, I believe there'd be posts in this corner because it's closer to the house. I wasn't 100% sure whether they'd have posts down here because this portion of Lot 9 is within an open space easement already. That was another thing that we had gone through in the planning process. So that can't get cleared anyway, so it already has that protection on it. So to put those posts there is kind of a loop. So the areas that you're looking now to add would be this up in here.
And right there at the entrance, right there.
I guess.
So maybe I'm not understanding this. So show me the line that this is identifying here in this potential condition.
Basically
Tree
the-
line, the tree
It's
line
that line right there.
Yeah.
right here. So then it matches up here. You obviously don't need it in the drainage parcel.
Right.
And it would come along this tree line here. And then technically, I guess you could, it's stating that you need to have it all through here, which, again, I guess that's why I highlighted these portions that already have a requirement of putting posts at the no-build zone per conservation.
And so it's really the back lot area there.
One reason that the planning board has done this in the past, in case anybody is wondering, is there's a difference in the drainage capability of land that's wooded versus lawn. And I'm not sure how those areas were considered in your drainage calculations, but if they were considered as, wooded land, then I think you really don't want those to become lawn.
Well, I think there's two thoughts of process that you could go through in that sense. Looking at it here, all of this area that you're looking at is on the outer parts of the development, and this area from this high point would end up in this wetland over here. This would end up flowing through this wetland, I guess, path. And one of the thoughts is if you go with the recommendation of having a requirement that if there is further clearing on that individual lot, they have to come before you. I believe you have a stormwater bylaw that can look at individual lots. Yes?
Yeah, no, the stormwater bylaw wouldn't apply because once they get their approval
We
of
could write it in
subdivision.
here that you have to do that, and that maybe they have to add a rain garden to address that concern. Again, it's minimal with regard to what flows through what's already being maintained as a resource. So you're not going to overtax the stormwater structures that are within the system that are collecting the stormwater for the development at this point.
So if that was all converted, cleared and converted, how would it affect your stormwater calculations?
Without running the numbers, I don't know exactly, but from going from woods to lawn with a sea soil, there is a change in what they call a weighted CN value or a curve number with regard to the surface condition, but it's like a 10% increase versus 30% increase that you would get if you went from woods to pavement. So I would imagine that you could potentially have a slight increase in flow coming through there. It all depends on how that watershed is evaluated, whether you change that weighted CN value. That small amount may not change the curve number, and then you have no change in that watershed.
It seems that in the future, if that's how it's done, then the calculations ought to be done assuming that all the property that's not preserved is going to be converted, right?
But you can ask for that.
Yeah,
at
well,
that
I'm just
time.
thinking for the future, we probably ought to do it that way.
Yeah, I think the way the board has usually dealt with this has been to try to control that area and try to keep it in a forested state. There was also, with, all respect to the applicant's attorney, I think there's a general principle that the planning board can look at all sources of information relating to, the proposal before them. So the IVAS report, just because it was submitted to the Conservation Commission, certainly doesn't mean, and to my point of view, that you can't use it, you can't look at it. And that does talk a lot about the value of wooded areas for habitat, and also this gets to the condition on the restriction on lawn fertilizer and, and so on, which was, also in that report. So, it's not a huge area. I can see where having the bounds on the open space parcel was, is not going to be necessary. I think we're really, my intent was to propose that for the developed parcels. So, I'm just thinking of other developments that the planning board has had the same situation before, and, that's the way they've addressed it. So, it's, however they go, I don't know.
Can we specifically call out, because it's just those back lots, otherwise we're going to end up, like you said, duplicating bounds, or there'd be two bounds technically in weird places. So,
On
so,
some of the lots.
yeah, no,
On the lots with the green.
right. So,
Well, we already said we weren't going to deal with that open space area in the front,
Well-
so I think.
well, what I guess is what I'm saying is, could you specifically call out the lots, numbers? Whatever, and I can't, I don't have it in front of me.
This would,
Yeah.
I would envision lots 5, 6, and 7 are the critical ones that you're looking at.
Yeah.
And
Probably
that
bring
have
the next one
sufficient.
over
If you
too.
want to go farther, you've got 7, 8, and 9.
And if you could,
7 and 8, I guess.
and like,
there's nothing left
you could just say, the non-disturbance buffer, shown on the grading plans, this non-disturbance buffer shall be delineated on lots, whatever,
Yeah.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then the text is just the same. That way you're not duplicating the bounds, like you said, down in the open space parcel and others.
Again, you have an open space parcel that's giving you almost 51% of the total area of the project as open space that's preserved permanently. Your regulation only requires 30%, so you're getting like 68% more land getting preserved just with the conveyance of that lot than your regulation requires. And now what you're suggesting in this proposed condition is to further restrict this additional land. I don't know how much acreage that is, but we've already reduced the size of the lots from 40,000 down to 30,000, conveyed more than 50%, or you will convey more than 50% of the land to the town. I think you're overly restricting the individual lots, and creating a non-disturbance zone up against land that's being preserved permanently anyway. I mean, we could have, if we had envisioned that this land, that the boundary between the lots and the open space parcel was going to be restricted like this, we could have created these lots to make them larger. They could have extended up into the open space parcel. So this line could have been different, and we would have had more room. So what you're proposing here just doesn't seem consistent with what an applicant would expect to be an outcome when you're reading the regulation. You read the regulation, say preserve at least 30%, and we preserve over 50, and then you come in and you put in an additional condition that further restricts the use of the lots that we've created. I just don't think that's fair, and it's not what we anticipated.
Good point made.
So, where do we go?
I'm not sure where to go with it, but I'm under a time frame to figure out where we go next. So let's leave that as, leave a hold on that, and we'll work on that.
So
Okay.
we're on 12?
Number 12, a copy of the revised definitive flexible open space development plan shall be provided to the planning board a minimum of 5 business days prior to the expected endorsement of the definitive plan. Number 13, a homeowners association agreement including the following items shall be provided to the planning board no less than 8 business days prior to endorsement of the definitive plan. A requirement that fertilizers shall be restricted to organic fertilizers only. Pesticides and herbicides shall be used sparingly and applied by a professional applicator licensed under the Massachusetts Department of Agriculture. The exterior storage of fertilizers, herbicides, fertilizers, and hazardous materials is prohibited.
Should we
Comment?
discuss this subparagraph now? All right. This is one thing that we've discussed with the Conservation Commission as well. Obviously, they're really the agency primarily concerned with what the effect is of a fertilizer because of the risk of it flowing into surface waters. And we have a condition that we've agreed to with the Conservation Commission for the order of conditions to have a permanent continuing condition. I don't want to have potentially conflicting terms, and I'm very concerned that you have a condition first requiring organic fertilizers only, and number 2, requiring that any of these homeowners, if they're going to fertilize their lawns, can't do it themselves. They can't go pick up their lawn fertilizer from Home Depot or wherever and apply it themselves. You're requiring that they hire a professional applicator licensed under the Department of Agriculture to apply the fertilizers. I guarantee you that this will be a condition that's observed in the breach, as they say. People will ignore it, and there's no way for you to enforce it.
I agree. Let me ask this question. You have a language that basically talks about the use of fertilizers with Concom?
We have discussed with the Concom how to deal with this issue.
Yeah, will it be in the order of conditions?
Is it,
I thought you just said they weren't gonna.
I'm trying to remember actually what the outcome was. I think that the conclusion was that.
we'll let you have that as a homework assignment, is to come back up with the
It was
language.
Was the areas, excuse me, I believe it was
Was
the areas that would be affected by the buffer zone. When we went in for individual lot approval,
That's
that
what it is.
any of the lots that would, the construction would be in part of the buffer zone, the individual lot would have a restriction on it. Because I think there'd only be 2 lots that the construction would
right.
take place that would be in the buffer zone, am I correct? Ed?
That's exactly
This
how we
email
ended
that
up.
I have says that, that you think that Concom is dropping the restriction on fertilizer use, and you think that the planning board should as well. That's an email from you to Pat Gallivan. Well, anyway, so I just wondered if they
I think
were
it's something
dropping
we
it.
can get well, let's you keep it as a homework assignment, but my recollection is more consistent with what Joe has just said, which is that to the extent that the Conservation Commission will be dealing with it, it will be, once the individual lots come before the Conservation Commission, there could be a restriction pertaining to the individual buffer zones, but not for the project as a whole.
Because I think intuitively, it makes sense that the control ought to be in one location rather than that bifurcated in 2, and then looking for different requirements in each.
Right.
Yes. So let's,
And also, like, based on what you said, I totally agree that it seems like you could say that it's, restricted to organic fertilizers, and then the exterior storage is not permitted, and then that's it. Because then someone could go to Home Depot and buy some organic fertilizer.
I think maybe that's a good, like, middle ground.
Yeah.
These fertilizer controls were recommended in the report on the box turtles, so that's where this is all coming from.
Okay, B,
so I guess we'll
This is
look
tied
at
into
that.
the habitat then?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I run into a timing problem, because at 8:30, we've got Country Way.
Okay.
We're into
Much
Country Way
progress as we
time, so
can.
we'll do 305 Country Way in a minute. But before we do that, I think that there's one that I want to make sure that at least we understand what the issues are beforehand, so we can look to resolve, and that is I think it's 14, acceptance obtained prior to the endorsement of the definitive plan.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we came close to meeting the minds on that one.
Okay, I
but
just
I'm
want
not
to make sure,
what you
because
think,
that,
what the
The,
board thinks.
my concern about number 14 as it's worded is that this is a condition prior to endorsement of the plan, and it's impossible for us to convey the lot, have the town
Agreed.
accept the land before the plan's
I
endorsed.
just want to make sure that there's a way of reaching closure between them.
So I think what we've agreed to is that we can confirm that the selectmen want the town to have the land conveyed to it, but there's not a formal acceptance until.
And then
I think it's a language issue.
there was one other issue that talked about the applicant paying for the review of the conservation restriction.
Well, a threshold question there is whether you actually are anticipating that there's going to be a conservation restriction as an absolute in addition to conveyance of the lot to the town. In your findings of fact, I think you actually did it the right way. The findings of fact say that the land will either be conveyed to the town or there'll be a conservation restriction placed on it. I guess I'd ask the town, does it really want to have itself hamstrung by having a conservation restriction that's enforced by the state, by the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, placed on the land that the town is about to accept? Or do you want to go on the assumption that if land is being conveyed to the Conservation Commission for conservation purposes under its statutory authority at Chapter 40, Section 8C, that putting the land into conservation that way, which effectively makes it permanent, is enough and you don't need a conservation restriction put on it? I'll draft one and I'll put it through the EOEEA, but I question whether the town really wants to do that.
That'll be my homework assignment. Strike
Because
that,
it
our homework
ties in with
assignment.
CPC very nicely.
Huh?
It ties in with CPC
Yeah.
nicely because CPC requires it.
Yeah, so anyway, so that'll be my homework assignment
Okay.
on it. But to the extent that it is required, and it's right, and it needs to be written,
Yeah.
and it's been past practice and future practice that you guys are gonna pay for the review by the lawyers.
right? We'll discuss that among ourselves, that's fine.
All the more reason to build a case if Cistern says we don't need it.
Well, and I think you don't need it. And
Well,
then
I think we
the other comments
check with our-
relating,
Yeah.
Community
What?
preservation
I'm
folks,
sorry?
right?
okay, my other comments elsewhere in the conditions that relate to the conservation restriction are more about when is it prepared and what is it a precondition to. So you have several places where preparing the conservation restriction and having it approved is a precondition to grant the building permits or of the endorsement. And because CRs can sometimes take a long time to get approved by EEA, I'd like to have it set up so that it's a precondition only of a sale of a lot. You won't release the lot for sale, but we can proceed with having the endorsement, getting the plan recorded, begin construction of the road, and we'll get the EEA as approval before we sell a lot.
Okay, so we'll add that as a subset of my homework.
There you
Okay.
go. Okay.
It's unusual, I don't give myself homework assignments.
Well, you're gonna delegate that anyway, aren't you?
Well, yeah,
And then 18 ties into 11, right? So when we resolve 11, we'll have resolved 18.
I think.
Yeah.
What we now need to do is to figure out when we can wrap this up. But I appreciate your comments. It makes life a lot easier, at least for us to work through it.
While she's looking, I just want to ask, and it's not a big deal. You know, we also have the scenic road motion. Did you want to vote on that, or all at once?
All at once.
Okay.
I have a question too, Bill.
Yep.
On 19,
Yeah, I was just
don't
gonna
we
guess.
don't we have restrictions on construction that are actually in the zoning bylaws that are specific?
Yeah.
Time restrictions? And if the answer to that is yes, what are they?
Yeah, I was gonna ask about why we're going from 5 to 7 PM.
Oh, no, there's
no
nothing
time
on
in?
that anywhere. Yeah,
Really?
it's all from you guys.
Wow, okay.
All conditions. that
Thinking
we
of something
provide.
else then.
When can we wrap this up?
I guess the first thing I'm wondering is how much time do you want to allocate for that? I mean, another 45 minutes, another,
I'd say at least an hour. would
Yeah.
you?
I would think an hour, and what I'd like to do is to put something that's flexible on the end of it,
flexible on the end of it.
which means that if I need an hour and 20 minutes, then I'm gonna get my hour and
So it
20
won't be
minutes.
up against a,
Right.
yeah.
Like our board business.
Okay, you could do it February 27th at, well, we got another meeting in January where you've got stuff till 10 o'clock already scheduled. February 13th, you've got stuff till 9:45, all scheduled. Then you got the 27th, and you can probably go from like 9:30. Unless you want to try to have another meeting date, or to start early, or, you know, some other option.
If we worked at 9, if we did it at 9:45,
That's the night that you have 40 Curtis Blanchard Farms at 8:45, assuming that would take an hour.
that's gonna be an hour.
Is that one of
What's
the
the
ones
other-
that might be
What's the other
continued?
9:45?
Which
It's not, okay. I'm sorry?
date are we talking about here?
That's February 13th.
Just
January
throw-
23rd, you're booked till 10.
I would rather start early if everybody else can do it than run till midnight.
Well, and I was going to throw out, I'd be happy to do like another meeting too, on one of the other
I'd
Thursdays.
almost rather do that than.
That's
'cause
okay too.
Another meeting?
I can't get here that early, so.
There's the possibility of the 16th. There's the possibility of January 30th.
Can we do it?
16th, we won't
Can
have
we do it
the
next Thursday?
ENF.
That's right, yeah.
Can we do the 16th?
Well, Stephen just brought up that you won't have a decision on the ENF yet.
And actually, I will be on my way to Nebraska.
Okay.
January.
Lucky you.
You're always on your way somewhere.
I know. That one's actually for family, though.
Oh, yeah, that's right, I remember.
Okay, so there's a possibility of January 30th, which is a
Yep.
Thursday.
That would be fun.
Sure.
That certainly works for me.
Work for you? Okay.
Okay, so we'll go to the 30th, we'll start at 7:30 and we'll go until we,
Okay, well, okay.
that'll be the only
The
thing.
development you have right after this one, if you continue that one,
If I continue that one, it'll be probably until 9 o'clock.
okay. Okay.
And so we will start at 7:30 on the 30th.
Okay, so we got a motion.
So you've got copies of all of the draft conditions. You've got copies of the scenic road.
No, I haven't gotten,
They were stapled together all together.
It should be in one package.
This is what was handed out tonight.
It's not
oh, I see.
with
That's what
equitable
was
stuff.
handed out, I see. That's this.
Is the 30th a fifth Thursday?
Yes.
I see.
Yes.
So we're off?
The motion that you would make would be kind of dependent on the applicant making a request. And the request should also be to continue the time for action on the plans. So we were going to suggest February 21st. Oh, you're looking at your calendar? That's for
No,
the
the
plans
30th
to
would be the
filed.
meeting. The 21st would be the filing.
21st would be the,
The end point for filing. Would have to be filed
Filing a
by.
decision with the town clerk.
I see. So we're talking about the January 30th as the continued deliberation and
Yeah.
then filing with the town clerk by the 21st?
Yeah,
Yeah, no later than the
So
21st.
3 weeks to finalize the paperwork.
just in case well, we won't go there.
Okay.
Okay. So,
So that doesn't change.
right, that doesn't change.
All right. I move to accept the applicant's request to continue the public hearings for the definitive subdivision plan, flexible open space special permit, and scenic road public shade tree hearing for Benjamin Studley Farm, a flexible open space definitive subdivision at 214 Clap Road until January 30th, 2014, at 7:30 PM, and to continue the time for action for the definitive subdivision plan, flexible open space, special permit, and scenic road public shade tree hearing until February 21st, 2014.
I have a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. It's like a tongue twister.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
See you the 30th.
Like dueling easels here.
I feel like Sisyphus.
We should have a permanent set of easels here, so people don't have to bring their own all the time.
I think we should go paperless
There
and put
there
them up
are
on the wall.
actually,
Well, it's interesting, but I was,
not
Have
elegant,
a
but they're
big,
there.
like 80-inch.
oh, yeah, no, I was
With a thumb drive.
presenting to the planning board up in Salisbury last night. And everybody's got a laptop. There's a big screen up on the wall, podium. They queue you up, you're all electronic. It comes up on the members' laptops, it's up on the board for the public. Very nice.
Works for me.
All right, get on that, will you?
Yeah. This is Salisbury, it's not like they're a big,
I'll talk
rich
to the
town.
IT director.
Lisa
We
Pearson.
have an IT director, but he's got so much to do just to bring us to where we should have been 2 years ago. So,
We'll share it with the selectmen. Be perfect.
You know, I'll bet if we write a grant application to Richard's company, they'd probably fund it for us.
Do they
Sure.
have special little grants? For boards that their employees
I
are
think he
members
calls that
of?
a contract.
The emphasis on con, yes.
Let's get us back on schedule here. The next item on the agenda is a continuation of public hearing, scenic road public hearing for 305 Country Way, flexible open space subdivision, flexible open space special permit and definitive subdivision. Sorry we ran a little late, Greg, but you'll get your full hour. To the extent that somebody from Cushing Highway is gonna get their time. Why don't we, got it?
Yep, good to go.
Good. Laura, you all set?
Yeah, thanks.
Your colleague
Oh, okay,
comments.
great.
Why don't you give us a status of what's changed since last time we met? We'll have Laura do the same, and then we'll figure where we need to go.
Okay. Since the last time we met, I think we've completed all of the homework assignments that you gave us. We submitted a revised set of plans, and we submitted a letter to the board on December 22nd. Specifically included in that were changes to the plans with respect to DPW comments that were received. They were primarily detail changes, some changes to the hydrant detail, the water service detail, nothing substantial to the actual layout of the plan. We also made changes in accordance with John Chessia's review at that point. I can go over those specifically, but they are detailed again in our letter dated December 22nd. I believe John's latest response just this week primarily agrees with everything we've done on the plan. We revised our landscaping plan. Our landscaping plan, we added significant plantings along the 150-foot no disturb. We added plantings at the entrance of the project, at the entrance of the roadway with Country Way. We provided a cross-section at roadway station 1+50 to show the cross slope on the road, to show the slope, and to show a proposed fence, all with respect to the 150-foot no disturb buffer zone. As Exhibit A, we submitted that. We met with Kevin Cafferty and Laura Harbottle to discuss improvements that we could offer for drainage issues out here. The DPW had no specific opinion or no specific upgrades that they wanted to see made to the system, but what I've noticed when I've been on the site is that there's significant road sand from sanding operations, plowing, that gets into the stream bed that's out there. So what we've proposed was we would entertain a condition to install 2 catch basin hoods. I noticed that there are not hoods on the catch basins out in that general area. We would propose 2 for the discharge to the tributary area. We looked into the site distance. As you recall, pulling out of the proposed site, looking to the right, southerly along Country Way, a portion of our site distance triangle crossed the neighbor's property. We approached the neighbor with monetary compensation to obtain an easement. They have not responded. An easement has not been obtained. The project as it designs does comply with the site distance requirement. It's just that we don't physically own the entire site triangle. We don't have an easement for the entire site triangle. To compensate for that, in lieu of an easement, we've proposed 2 additional speed limit signs or an intersection sign to be installed along Country Way. We also had the applicant's attorney, Attorney Hayes, submit revised conservation restriction language. I believe those were the homework assignments we were tasked with. I can point out the specifics on the plans if you'd like. That's the general overview.
No, I think that's the homework that I think I gave you. Laura?
I think we're all trying to kind of bring this to a conclusion. There have been numerous hearings. It's a very difficult site, it's challenging, and there's still a couple of small open issues. One of them is the actual location of the open space versus the developed area. I think that there was kind of an assumption that all the 150-foot buffer was on the open space. But looking at it very closely, it looks like there's some little pieces of it that are maybe about 5 feet wide they're not in the road, but they look like they're on the
Drainage easement.
on the
to lot
applicant's
3.
property, in the drainage easement, and then also a little bit of the cul-de-sac. Not the part that you're constructing, but the actual layout.
Right of way.
Goes
Correct.
over into that 150 foot. So I think we were trying hard to see if that whole area could be part of the open space that was going to be conveyed to the town. Another issue that came up with the open space, which I think, to be fair to the applicant, I don't think it's, I think they've maybe gotten some different messages from all of us, but when you really think about conveying this land to the town for open space, my gut feeling is that there probably should not be, like, maybe anything planted in it that's, that's sort of special. The first thing that the applicant did do was they took out the crabapple trees, which is great, but there's still some holly and some cedars and plants that are a little more native, but I'm just wondering whether we really want to give the town, like, some land with a whole bunch of new trees on it, which is also in the tributary buffer that, is going to have to be dug into and so on, or maybe whether that land should really be just left to go natural, aside from just the seed mix. And I know Greg, I think, has made some effort on this, but there were some landscape plantings at the entrance that were actually on the open space. So we had some discussion back and forth about that, and I think those have been taken out of the open space, and they're now in your road layout? Or they're
I
going
believe
to be
so.
in your
We
road
can look
layout?
at 'em.
Okay. Okay, so that's what's happening with the open space. Now, the drainage improvements in Country Way that Greg was just talking about, DBW has like 1,000 other things that's on their plate, and it sometimes is a little bit hard to kind of tease out what they're looking for. But we finally did get a memo from them that said that what they're really looking for is a storm scepter. You got that memo, I think?
No.
You didn't get that, okay. Well, they're looking for a storm scepter and also to get the trash rack replaced that's at the bottom of that drainage pipe. So they're looking for that. They don't want the catch basin on Black Beach to be, to be done, but they're looking for one in Country Way to be done. The one that's the closest, it's a little bit north of the development. That's the one they're looking for.
Do you have a copy of that memo?
No, but I'll make sure that you get one. The site distance easement, as Greg said, it's still not resolved, so that's something I think the board has really got to come to grips with. And maybe you want to get a little more detail about, what was, what happened when they, whatever. Maybe they can give some more information on exactly, what transpired with the abutter. Maybe not. Another thing that came up at the last meeting, which was, back in November, which seemed like it was kind of like a leading question, was about the cross-section for the fence and the slope. And it was really interesting to get that, because when you looked at it, the fence right now is proposed kind of at the bottom of the slope, and it also is proposed as, kind of a rail fence, like a PVC white rail fence, which I think is not a bad looking fence, but think the intent is really to try to keep that land pretty much completely free of public access. That's, I think, from the water department, that's what they wanted, because they don't want, things getting thrown into where the tributary is and so on. I think they're being cautious about the water supply, and that's what they're looking for. So I think the type of fence needs to be resolved, and also the location of the fence. It seems like you've got all the utilities on the opposite side of the street. You could have the street trees on the opposite side also, and you could have that fence, right along the top of the slope or pretty close to the top of the slope, so that it, you drive along and you see it and you kind of realize, okay, well, we're not gonna just walk in there and have a picnic or something. The reason that this open space is treated differently is because it is really protecting the water supply. It's not, it's not like a place that you just go and, I don't know, you do things that maybe you do in other open space, like you'd really be able to access it more. One other open item is there still are a couple of waivers that need to be addressed. One of them is the granite curb, and the other one is these street trees. Whether we want to, you want to have the street trees on the opposite side of the road from the open space, which, actually seems like it really makes a lot of sense to do. So, so I think that's, what's on your plate.
You want to talk to the DEP visit on the 16th?
Okay, yeah, thank you. It's kind of a procedural issue, but, it's really a lot more than that. There's an abutter who had wanted the Conservation Commission to take another look at the tributary, the part that's underground. Basically, it's a drainage, drainage pipe.
Correct.
It's not underground, okay,
It's
sorry.
actually, I was there with Mr. Crucell, who was the applicant. It's, the purpose was to get the Conservation Commission to make a determination on the tributary that flows through the site. A determination was never made on the tributary, only on the BVW, the Bordering Vegetated Wetland.
Okay.
And DEP agreed with Mr. Crucell's appeal. So, as of
I'm not
now,
quite done yet, so,
as of now, there's no real location determined for the tributary that's official.
okay, well,
So
I don't know if I would put it quite that way, but,
That's a fact.
Well, okay.
okay, can I just finish?
Laura's got the floor.
So, the way I would look at it would be that the abutter is asking, was asking the conservation to make this determination. They came up with a negative determination. They said they did not think it was a resource that they needed to be concerned about, and the abutter appealed that to the DEP. Isn't that?
No,
That's
if you
not
don't
what
want it to be
happened?
easier, we can send you a copy of that.
Regardless, regardless of the process, currently it has been referred to the DEP. They're going to make a site visit on the 16th. That's the operable, the point
Right,
that
it
needs
brings
to be.
everything back to square one.
So that needs to be the point. How we got there, whether we got there your way or whether we got there Laura's way is somewhat immaterial. It's the determination the DEP is going to make on the 16th that is critical.
If you like detail, I'll send you a digital copy of the appeal and the decision by DEP, so you have it.
Yeah, we should have that.
Yep, okay.
Okay, so that's basically where we are. So with this open question of how DEP is going to consider the tributary, that could mean that the road is within the 150 feet. And that would mean that you would really have to kind of start from scratch with this, with the plan. Or you'd have to, maybe not start from scratch, but you'd have to significantly modify it, I believe, so.
Laura, if you know or can guess, what's the DEP's process? I mean, who's going to be out there? What are their credentials? Do they then need a surveyor to flag whatever findings they may or may not make at that time? what's the time frame that all this needs, can happen in?
I put in a call to them. I did not get a call back. I'm going to let maybe Greg answer that from his point of view.
If I may.
Yes.
Please.
Scituate Conservation Commission upheld all of their previous wetlands findings on this project. The applicant appealed it to the DEP. The DEP has not ruled in favor of the applicant being the aggrieved
Understood.
abutter. They've simply accepted his appeal. They're walking the site next week. They will not be looking at the tributary. The tributary is not jurisdictional under the Town of Scituate Wetlands Bylaw or under the State Wetlands Protection Act. They will be looking at the status of an intermittent stream. The location of that intermittent stream has a 50-foot buffer and a 100-foot buffer associated with it, neither of which, even if the stream moves 50 feet, neither of which will impact this project. DEP typically performs a site visit within 30 days of accepting an appeal. After the time of the site visit, it may take them 30 to 60 days to rule on it. We'd like the board to move forward. The commission has upheld their previous findings. The DEP has already walked the site in the past and upheld them as well.
Let me ask you a question about, you just said there's a 50 and 100-foot buffer.
Yes.
How does that relate to the 150-foot buffer we're talking about?
The 150-foot buffer is measured from the edge of the bank associated with the intermittent stream. The intermittent stream, that bank there, is subject to change. The intermittent stream has a 50 and 100-foot buffer associated with it.
Even if it weren't?
But if the intermittent stream location changes, this 150-foot no disturb zone, buffer zone changes.
It may. It may.
But if I remember right,
Yes, it may change. at that
Wouldn't
location.
it definitely change?
Depends on if the intermittent stream moves any closer to the project or whether it moves
Yes, but if it
further away.
moves, the buffer moves,
If it moves, the buffer
whatever
moves.
direction.
Yes.
Okay.
Greg, when you talk about the bank, is it the sort of apparent erosion or scouring limit? Or is
It
it
is.
the actual limit of water?
It's the first observable break in slope, which is the main difference between an intermittent stream and a tributary channel. And just because the intermittent stream changes may not make the tributary
Yes, right,
boundary
right.
change. Yes.
That's where I'm going. Okay.
Correct.
but I thought there was some, lack of a better word, buffer built in, because I remember when we had this conversation, I think you had said that, well, even if it does, like, potentially move 20 feet, it's not going to actually impact where that 150-foot buffer is, or where the development is, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, there are certainly parts where we're not working directly up to that 150-foot no disturb zone, where we could scale back work if we had to. I mean, we have that ability in certain locations.
So are we going to know anything more, in your opinion, after this DEP review than we do now?
No.
Well, I think, I'm certainly
not sure
going
it's
to
gonna be
make
more.
every effort to, get some kind of a reading.
Okay.
I'm not sure that I understand your question.
Well, DEP is
They
going to
come,
walk
they
through
saw,
on the
they walk away.
16th.
Well, that's,
And what are they going to review? I've just been told they're not going to review the location of the stream, which I always thought was the critical piece of knowledge that claims to have been missing, or that,
I think that's what they were
looking at-
asked to review, so I
They're-
think that's what they're going to.
They're going to review the stream. They are not reviewing the tributary status. They're reviewing the stream location, the two separate
okay,
issues.
but okay, all right. Correct
Right,
me if
but
I'm
go-
wrong, though.
Right
but
now.
We've determined for the purposes of Situate's watershed protection district that it's a tributary. So they don't have to review
Yes.
the tributary status. It
It
it's a
is, and we
tributary.
acknowledge that it is.
Okay.
Part of it's acknowledged to be, but part of it's not acknowledged to
No,
be.
we acknowledge the tributary runs entirely through the site, including in the drainage ditch. We acknowledge that, and we hold our setback to it, as shown on all of our plans, Laura.
Okay.
So the only issue is whether when they look at this, they determine that tributary moves somewhere.
moves closer to.
Right.
I think what you're thinking of, Laura, waters, this upper reach here of the tributary is a man-made drainage ditch. Conservation determined that it was not jurisdictional as a stream. I agree that it is jurisdictional, per the town of Scituate, that it is a tributary. And so we have our 150-foot buffer measured off of that drainage ditch, although it has no protection under the Wetlands Protection
Right.
Act.
Yep.
And to the extent that the DEP comes in and reviews that and says it's in a different location, it'll be adjusted accordingly.
Yes, and I might add that the DEP already has walked the site in the past, and they've already determined that there are no wetlands further onto the site than this line right here, this wetland line. So they've already walked up through here, and they've determined that, so that's non-jurisdictional through a superseding order of resource area delineation.
Lance?
Well, for one thing, Mr. Cruzel's here to actually the request for determination of applicability that he filed with the Conservation Commission was based on correcting the error that's been made on the plan. That drainage swale is actually a natural stream that's been altered, just like a lot of streams in our town that have been altered for drainage purposes or whatever. And there's a wetland at the origin of that stream that was actually flagged by the proponent's owner wetlands person. And that was part of the request for determination of applicability that we put before the Conservation Commission. They did not respond, in our opinion, correctly to our request for determination of applicability, which is why Mr. Cruzel filed for a superseding request. In a request, you can ask the Conservation Commission, or in this case DEP, to review resource areas on a plan, whether or not work is being proposed near them at all. Part of the appeal is to correct the errors on a plan, and one of them is that that's not a drainage swale. It's a stream that flows through the entire site, starting at Williamsburg Lane, Country Way, that spot. And that'll simplify things quite a bit, if that's something that DEP agrees with, because then everybody can just say, it's a stream, and it's a tributary to our water supply, therefore it gets a 150-foot non-disturbance zone. And if when DEP comes out on the 16th and looks at that area and decides that the bank needs to move, that would change where the 150-foot non-disturbance zone is.
Okay. The only comment I'd make is that it's not errors on the plan, it's perceived errors on the plan.
Well,
Because until we get the
Right.
resolution, we don't know whether what's being projected on this plan is correct or not. So we're waiting for DEP to come back up and make a confirmation.
You,
You're saying that there's a possible error or misstatement in two situations. One is categorization of that stream, drainage ditch, wetland, whatever, and the other is possibly location.
yeah, that's good.
But it seems to me that that the proponent has treated it as though it were a stream. In other words, it makes no difference at all what you call it. The 150-foot setback is being observed.
We've disagreed with its location.
Yeah, well, okay, so all I'm saying is it's really only the
It's only
location
about
Right.
that's an issue.
That's
Yeah.
my point. Thank you.
So how does DEP, at walking the site on the 16th, decide that
Where it is.
it's not where it's shown on the plan? Do they do GPS? Do they have sextants and compasses? And, I mean, it's difficult to do without a full survey, right? They're gonna see it, they're just not gonna know where they're located relative to the plan.
the physical flags here were located by an instrument survey. They were tied into all the boundary markers around the site, and they're stamped by a registered land surveyor.
And the flags are still there.
The flags are still
They
there.
probably put new
We
flags.
think all of them are still there?
We're gonna walk the site just to verify, because it's been almost 2 years now
Right,
since they've been hung.
Exactly.
But
They could have moved,
there's,
anything could
there's
happen.
there's been no disturbance out there.
Okay. I mean, that's a technical issue, but I'm curious as to
No.
how that's done.
Because we're arguing over 10 feet.
Well, or 3 feet, or 6 inches.
Well, and also, if I remember right, the the existing, let's say, the terminology for the tributary, which is the lower part, was well marked out. Then there's the upper along coming off of Countryway, which is the drainage ditch. And essentially, you were showing the connection to the two, which, I mean, I don't think it would, I mean, that would change the location that much. I mean, it's like the top location is well-known and the bottom location is well-known. There was just this piece in the middle that was not well-known. And so that even narrows it down more, I guess,
Yeah.
is my understanding.
I'm not sure that's the part that they're talking about. Yeah, I don't think it is. I
Oh.
think
It's the
it's
piece up
further
near
It's
down
this
the
upper
road.
piece, right?
the way that you're
Piece up
talking
near the
about.
road.
We're talking about the entire tributary.
The entire
Entire
tributary.
tributary.
So is somebody gonna survey this?
I assume it's surveyed
No.
and the
Well, they're
flags
gonna
are
look at it
Once they come
relative
and
to the
look at it.
flags.
Right.
I think they're gonna, I assume that if there's a licensed surveyor who did the survey, that they've got to assume that that's correct unless there's, some other type of
Exactly.
dispute over it.
Exactly. I mean, the DEP is gonna look at the locations as they're hung on the trees out there today. The DEP will not perform a survey on this site,
Of course not.
no.
Nor would I expect them to. I mean, it's literally been surveyed there. The only question
Yes.
is, they're gonna make their decision based on relevancy.
How are these flags attached?
They're
to a
plastic
tree.
ribbons that are tied to trees.
The trees that grow and,
They're all over the place.
you know,
Yeah.
they could be in completely different places now.
And bend and blow down and,
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, I mean, they don't move that much.
okay.
And what we're looking for at this point is we're going to compare the physical things in the earth as opposed to as compared to where the markers are on the trees. Is that right?
Correct, you look at the physical features along the wetland boundary.
Okay.
You know, the soil, the scour on the rocks, on the
So,
ground,
so
vegetation.
if the physical features are still in line with the markers, you guys are good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me come back up, and I guess I'm gonna ask John for a second, but I think what I'm gonna suggest that we do is something similar to what we just did on 214, and that is, rather than wait till we come back up and hear from DEP, which I think is not fair to us nor the applicant, because it just leaves it hanging out there, is to look and see if we can resolve the open items that we've got, right? And then put it to the point where we're as close to concluding the hearing as possible. And then if DEP comes back up and makes a change, then then we're back to ground zero. To the extent that they confirm what's on the ground and what's being proposed on the plan, then in effect that we're,
Yeah, that's fine.
Sure.
does
I think
that
that's
work for
fine.
the board?
We'll narrow it down to what's left to be
Yes.
resolved.
And I think Laura's summary is right, but before we do that, John, you've looked at the latest.
And, yeah, I mean, basically, I think that the issues that remain are really up to the board. You have the flexible open space bylaw and all the requirements under that. I didn't look at the landscape plan, but I know that was an open issue. There's waivers still outstanding to deal with. There's the site distance to deal with. There's the temporary sediment basin. I'm okay with the size of it, the design of it, but I don't agree with the way they did it. But I ran some calculations to that rather than going back and forth another time just to satisfy myself that it'll be all right.
So you're saying you're satisfied with that?
I'm satisfied.
Right.
I personally think that they need a waiver for the alignment of the road relative to Black Beach Lane when I scale it. I think that they claim it lines up, but it doesn't appear that way to me when I look at the right-of-way. For Black Beach, what you have is one side's a straight line and one side's got a radius. In the straight line, you offset that by the width, and it doesn't align, they're supposed to align like this. And they align off a bit, in my opinion. There's not enough information, there's no meets and bounds on Black Beach, but graphically, it doesn't line up, so I think they need a waiver.
Like 10 feet or 50 feet?
It's like, I think, maybe less than 10, might be 8 or something, 6 or 8 or something.
Can I address that one right
Sure.
now? John is correct. The right-of-way lines, the exterior 42-foot wide right-of-way, they do not agree, okay? And if you do take that sideline of Black Beach and you offset it 21 feet to where the center of the right-of-way is, what you'll notice is that the pavement on Black Beach is not centered in the right-of-way. The pavement itself is shifted over. So what we did is we lined up our intersection to be centered on the pavement of Black Beach, so that when you physically have the intersection and there's two cars at the intersection, there's no offset. They're physically at each other. And how we determine that, John, we did locate the Black Beach pavement, and we show that on the plan. So
Can we see that?
the regulations are a little unclear. It does say intersections are supposed to be with zero offset. It doesn't say whether that's with respect to the outside right-of-way or whether to the actual pavement. Probably the best sheet here is sheet 4. You can see that we actually extended our line here directly across, and you'll see that there's the pavement line here for Black Beach, and there's the pavement line here for Black Beach. And the pavement, if it were centered on the 42-foot right-of-way, the center of the pavement there should be at 21, and the center of pavement right now on Black Beach is more like 30 feet. So it is, it's about a 9-foot shift. It was lined up with the pavements.
Now that, just to add to that, I mean, it's not like there's such an offset that cars would be like
No.
screwed up with each other. It's more of a technicality, should you have a waiver for it, because it would be better to address one now and have it if you need it, rather than not grant it and have it.
But from a practical point of view,
Practically,
that's the best way to
This is-
line it
this
up.
is
the
how
pavement-
you
and it's
want
not
to
an
see it.
issue with the alignment from a practical point of view.
Okay.
It's a technicality on a waiver that the board should decide how that should be interpreted. I interpret it as the center line is the center of the right-of-way, but it,
Yeah.
and, you know, there's only a little stub going up there, so I don't know if maybe they just twisted the entrance a little or what. But normally, the roads are in the middle. In this case, again, like I said, one side's straight, one side's got a radius, so they might have just skewed it slightly.
This could have been a bad day.
Yeah, yeah.
Where's
They've added
Parrish is out in the
suspended
middle.
Euclidean geometry.
Anyway, so, yeah, so I think it's really, there's not really much more for me on this here at this point. It's really, it's all up to you now.
I meant Country Way.
Nobody appreciates that.
There was one other, what was the comment about soil testing?
There was, the waiver hasn't been, there was a discussion on soil testing. There was gonna be, I believe what was requested by the board was copies of the witnessing agent's logs.
Oh, yeah, we got those. Yeah,
And you did not vote on the waiver yet.
okay.
'Cause I think the ones.
And there's
that-
actually several sections of the regs that maybe would require waiver or a determination, because if you read the regs, soil testing shows up in several different specific locations, how you want to address that. None of the tests were witnessed by the board's agent, as far as I know, and you'd have to probably hit each one of them. There's also one section of the regulations, I believe, that you could, in the case of an infiltration basin, you have the authority to ask for permeability testing and things like that, if you so choose. And that hasn't been done, so that's something that you may wish to consider in a location like this, where it's in the watershed, et cetera. And, you know, all there has been is just basically soil evaluation, textural evaluation. So that's up to the board, but that's something you can consider.
I would like to add, all the soil testing that was performed by Morse Engineering was done by a soil evaluator. It was performed in the presence of the Board of Health witness, which has been acceptable on other projects in town. Prior to doing the testing on this site, I reached out to your staff and asked if it was okay for them to witness, and the response I got was in an email from Karen Joseph that says, it was agreed that the Board of Health could witness the soil testing. So we proceeded.
I think Thank you, John. I think where we are, we need a couple of waivers, in particular that we've talked about, but we haven't voted on. One is the granite curb, the other is the street trees. But before I get, before I get that, talk to me about where you think you are with the resolution on the possible easement or other alternative for the site triangle.
We've given it a lot of thought. I guess I'll defer to Mike on where he thinks if we can obtain the easement. I don't think it's attainable.
At this point, no. I have met with the people, and initially they were receptive and interested, but they have not responded to any of my inquiries for 2 months. So I have to assume that they changed their mind.
But this is the case where you offered to pay them for the easement?
But that would be a restriction on their deed, which would be on file, and if they wanted to sell the property, it would just be another possible impediment to, you know, a prospective buyer.
Conceivably, I mean, it's the area that we sought an easement is cleared land.
Yeah.
And lawn.
Yeah.
But, correct, I mean, it would prevent them or a future owner from
Planting
wrecking
in
the
there.
fence or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
No,
not
I'm just-
hedges or trees or anything else, it's there. It's open, it's literally cleared space.
Yes, yeah. I'm trying to imagine why they would, you know, be negative about the idea.
Unless they wanted to put a fence or something.
So it's really an issue of that they don't necessarily, are not interested in it as opposed to how much it's worth.
I have to assume that's the case, because they never made a counteroffer or anything. They said, yeah, we're very interested, we'll get back to you, and then every time I've reached out, and it's been numerous times since then, I've had no response.
So basically, it looks to be like a non-opportunity.
I would agree.
And you had talked about some mitigation in lieu of that?
Yeah, I guess there's a couple of thoughts I'd like to put out there. We'd certainly offer to install either 2 more speed limit signs, 30 miles an hour is the posted speed limit out there, or you know, an intersection ahead sign as you approach this project. Those locations we'd leave up to DPW or traffic rules and regulations, as we know that they're redesigning this whole area for that proposed bike path as well.
Right.
The other thought that I think of is the sight distance issue that we have is looking to the right as you're pulling out of the proposed project, on the opposite lane. Where we're measuring the sight distance is 15 feet back from the edge of the road onto our site, okay? In looking right, you actually have the benefit of that full travel lane from the left where we do not have any sight distance issues. So effectively, you could measure the 15 feet from the opposite side lane and you would achieve the sight distance without impacting that northbound lane. If you were to move that 15-foot triangle out to the center line of Country Way.
Although you'd hate to be the driver kind of in the middle of
Inching
that
out,
lane
yeah.
when you decided you couldn't make the full, complete turn.
Particularly because you know the guy's coming in at his full 30 miles an hour.
It's
Coming in at 40, we think, right?
I mean, I don't
Because
know.
the sight distance was okay at the posted speed.
Yeah.
It's at the
Yeah.
average actual speed that
And
we
that's-
got to the 305, right?
at 30 miles an hour posted speed limit, we comply.
Yeah, right.
It's the 40 miles an hour, which is more typical of traffic on Country Way that, you know.
Mike?
I would, oh, let's just say
I think, Greg and I discussed this too, is that we can get the desired result at the increased speed by going closer or further back than the center line. I think we did a ballpark calculation that where we're now starting that triangle at 15 feet, if we moved it 7 or 8 feet, we would get the desired result. That's been done with subdivisions in town.
Yeah, and you'd
This
still be
board's
in
done
your roadway, you wouldn't be on the
Within
public
our
roadway.
which is starting that triangle a little closer to the country way than that 15-foot requirement. That's how we got solved a similar problem on looking to the right as you're exiting a subdivision. We solved that problem on Elm Street on Tilden Woods by moving the triangle a little closer to Elm Street. And I would suggest that this would be analogous to that.
Now, moving that triangle, was that a waiver?
I don't think it was a waiver on Elm Street until.
think we-
What's the purpose of the triangle?
call
You can
it.
move it.
The triangles are an ASHTO standard.
Right, so if
So
you're
really,
using that standard.
Moving the triangle, it's a standard,
Right.
Yeah.
everything's done in accordance with a standard.
You're
I don't think
creating it-
just moving a triangle makes
You
it
move it and you
personal.
create a new standard.
What's
I don't-
the
Yeah,
what's the
we
sense of
don't
having a
have the
standard,
standard
it's just
anymore.
kinda like, well, whatever, we'll move it out here for this one. You gotta sort of stay and stick by the rules, in my opinion, on something like this. If you can't get the easement, I would recommend to the board to discuss with the traffic committee what's an acceptable alternative, if there is one. That would make the most sense to me.
You know, one of the most effective traffic speed limiters that I've seen is that radar-based sign up there on Gannett Road. You come blasting down there, and the first thing you know, the red
Says how
numbers
fast
come
you're
up.
going.
Yeah, and it tells you to stop. And there's a couple of those around, and I think most people want to follow the rules.
They're movable.
No, this one I think is permanent.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
The one on Gannett?
yeah.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, just after you cross the stream, just after you cross the Gulf River?
It might even be before, I think.
Yeah, it's by the traffic Y there.
Where Border Street
Okay.
goes off?
Yeah, that's the one.
Well, I was gonna say certainly having a sign, that says the speed limit, which is 35, is that correct?
30.
30. Would be, I think, advantageous for multiple reasons, but
And one that says, "Shame on you."
I mean, I'm more than happy to take a homework assignment to take it to traffic rules and regulations and sit there and see what they have to say.
I think the biggest variable here is seeing where that pathway lays out, because if Countryway gets narrowed at all, speed limits are gonna reduce on that road naturally as well, and I have not seen a design on that yet as well.
Is the sidewalk, no, strike that, the multi-use, multi-purpose path,
The trail.
is that gonna go
It's on the far side.
It's on the other
It's
side.
on the Black
Side.
Beach side.
Mhm.
Well, it's the side that has the most land outside the existing paved area. We also need to remember, we're talking about 3 homes, and the traffic generated by 3 homes, not 12 or whatever house subdivision.
Yeah, because there was a house there before that basically had the same site distance as existing now.
So, yeah, right, net increase of 2.
I got a net increase of 2.
yeah, I mean, however we want to do it, but I mean, I would certainly be amenable to whether it's a waiver or, like I said, installing a sign or something like that.
If it's agreeable to the board, I'll bring the issue up and see if we can get on the next traffic rules and
I
regulations.
think it's gonna be about a month from now, because they just met on Tuesday, so.
Sure.
But, yeah.
Okay, so I'll talk to them, sit there and see what can be.
That'd be great, because I don't know what the regulations are as far as when you can just put up another speed limit sign. If there's like a warrant for a certain number of
Speed bump.
signs, or, how that's regulated.
Yeah, we'd
Put a speed bump on Countryway.
There you go.
Right. Report potholes.
Okay. So I'll take that to traffic rules, and then I'll contact you and let you know when we're going. We're gonna discuss it with them.
Good.
I guess the next one to talk about is the fence, the location and design.
Yeah, I just had a question, since I'm glad you brought that up, because let's just say theoretically, the fence was moved to the top of the hill. How would you maintain what's on the other side? Like, if it was
You
grass?
wouldn't, you'd let it
No,
naturalize.
You wouldn't,
Okay, so that would,
Which is what you'd want to do anyway.
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I'd be more worried about
You
what
couldn't
the
actually maintain it
piles
if
of
it
snow
were at the
would do
bottom
to
of
it.
the slope, because you couldn't get a mower down in there between the fence and on the slope.
Right,
as
but there's,
well.
I guess what I was thinking is, from, on this cross-section that I'm looking at, from the top of the hill down to, let's say, where the shrubs are, that's mowable.
Yeah, right.
If you can get there. I mean, yeah, you, maybe with some sort of a hand,
3-to-1 slope, that's pretty steep.
Is there some kind of guideline between the edge of pavement and the location of the fence in terms of plowing or vehicle movement, or being able to walk between, if you happen to be on that side of the street and a car comes by, being able to walk between the pavement and the fence, without getting run over?
we haven't waived the granite curb yet, so, I mean, if there's a granite curb there,
Right,
it's
but
gonna
if
be at a
there's a
different
curb and then the
grade.
fence is right there, I think I've still got a concern.
Oh, I think you've got some, some feet there
Yeah,
to work with.
I would sort of move it down the slope a little bit or something. if
Yeah,
you could do
you
it.
need to leave some space.
Yeah,
3 or 4 feet,
Down the
probably.
slope or up the slope?
well,
It wouldn't
If
be
it
right
were
at the
here,
top
I
of
would
the
move it
slope.
this way, right there.
So Greg, your response is basically it's still the split rail fence?
Yeah, what we did is on the landscape plan, we proposed a 36-inch high split rail fence, and we added 24-inch to 30-inch high shrubbery plantings to really create a defined buffer there, is how we did it. I can show you the locations, they're on sheet 6, the landscape plan. Approximately 270 feet fence. Runs in that location. You'll see the plantings all up here primarily, where it currently is grass, it's field area. Back here, on the other side of the fence is fully vegetated, woods would remain as fully vegetated. You'll note that the fence is, it's on the opposite side of the street from these yards. People will be using their yards as their area. It's on the down side of that slope. It comes right down to the drainage basin here. That's where the 150-foot buffer tucks back into the woods on the open space parcel. This house here, the drainage system, runs through over here. This is the yard for lot 3, lot 2. We didn't feel that the yards would be encroaching onto that fence area. And we also looked at what had been approved on similar projects where we were protecting no disturb zones, specifically with the Conservation Commission. Conservation typically approves a wooden split rail fence. What we proposed was PVC, it's less maintenance, and then we provided the shrubs, the plantings, to create a little bit more of a buffer with it.
Where does the lot line for the homeowner stop? This last one,
On lot 3?
On
Yeah.
lot 3.
furthest one down, yeah. Now, can you just point it out there?
Right here. This is the lot line for lot 3. This is the drainage basin behind it.
Is he, how far up does
This
he go?
way to right here.
No, to the west, yeah.
It stops right
Right to this line right here. So the fence is installed on lot 3. This is all contained within an access and drainage easement to the basin. You see that line?
What about where you're showing, I think it's red there, that's where it stops though, right? The fence
Yeah.
stops, like right where your
Right
finger
there.
just was?
That's where
Yeah,
the fence stops.
yeah.
Correct.
So the lot line for lot 3 is quite a ways further down, between lot 3 and the drainage parcel.
Yeah, the lot line for lot 3 is right
Yeah.
here. Like that.
I mean, you still have some buffer
then-
pretty close there, I think.
So,
Is that right?
right.
Yeah. I think how long you want that fence to go is something, you all need to think about.
Yeah.
So what's the thinking of the board as to where the fence should be?
I think it should go all the way to the homeowner, back of the homeowner's lot line.
Okay, and then physically where on the?
At least wherever it ties into the 150 line.
You meant horizontally, Bill, relative to the street?
Can I,
Yes.
Oh,
Mike?
I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about how far does it go?
No.
Yeah.
Certainly doesn't want to be right at the top of the slope, so this is, what's the scale on this, Greg? 1 to 10 horizontally? So 5 feet
feet.
back,
Mhm.
something like that, from the edge of pavement?
and what was proposed, like in the current situation right now? Was that proposed to be grass there, like I was saying?
Yes, it's grass on
And
that
so-
3-to-1 slope.
If we did, as what Bob was suggesting, if we brought the fence up, then on the other side, it would just be whatever natural grass?
Yeah, it's just natural.
I would think,
Either
yeah.
natural vegetation as you get onto lot 3, or along the roadway area there, yeah, natural field with the shrub plantings.
You could use that restoration seed mix and, have it like all the same as the whole area.
Yeah, I was just trying to think visually, it'd be nice to have at least a small strip of grass to kind of tie everything together, on the right-hand side, as you come into the
Oh,
development.
yeah, no, I agree.
about 5
And
feet.
you would.
Just enough room to jump out of the
Then the
snowplows
question is,
with.
where do the shrubs go, or do they get deleted? And maybe that depends on what kind of fence. What I heard was the shrubs are kind of integral with keeping people on the right side of the fence in terms of a barrier. We used the fence, Laura, that you sent out for us to look at. The shrubs, you wouldn't obviously need the shrubs. I mean, you can't get through that kind of a fence anyway, but
It's a taller fence.
I'm gonna guess, if PVC split rails, $10 a foot, this is $150 a foot.
It could be a lot more expensive. On the other hand, if you really did some dense plantings, that's gonna have, some cost to it. But I mean, I guess you could do something like privet that's pretty dense, or
Yeah,
something like that.
My question is, though, like, I think on the section, they show the,
I don't know what's wrong with the split rail fence.
yeah.
but they show the shrub in front of it. I would think you'd want to put it immediately behind the fence. So like the fence itself is like the visually
Yep.
very clean lines as you come up the development. And then literally behind it is like the forest primeval, That's the wall.
I think that's a decent idea. Yeah. Maybe it should be Rosa rugosa, something that you really, really don't want to get involved
Barberry or
with.
something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, right.
I think, if I may, I think it's important, the water resource district here, section 520.5, has to do with the 150-foot buffer zone. And really, what's the purpose of this fence? Is it to prevent humans from going in the 150-foot buffer?
Theoretically.
I think if you read this section, what the purpose of the buffer is, it says the purpose is to prevent activities which cause earth movement or disturbance, vegetation removal or cutting, construction of permanent structures, and prevention of any surface or subsurface discharges. The town is creating parkways. We created a park down by the Rotary, adjacent to the reservoir.
I know where you're going,
We
sure.
created pathways through conservation lands. We're filling in wetlands, creating pathways in the west end, in the Water Resource Protection District. So, we're certainly not proposing to go and use that as lawn space. We're not gonna use it as trail space. But I think the purpose of what we have here is to prevent physical encroachment of structures, earth movement disturbance, and vegetation removal. And I think what we have, or a variation, if we move the fence a little bit one way or the other, does that. You know, one of the benefits of the town is having these open spaces for the benefit of the public to use. You know, whether it's walking through, whether it's hunting, whatever the purpose is, I think the purpose is for people to use open spaces like this in accordance with the bylaw, and I think what we have complies with the bylaw. I think you really need to determine whether it's to prevent human encroachment or not, and I don't think that was the intent when this was written.
I don't think it's the intent of that section, the way it's written. I think that was intended for developed areas where you have a lot of activity and so on. But one of the things that we were talking about with the last subdivision, which I think applies to this one also, is having the applicant have some kind of conversation with the selectmen before the whole plan is approved, to make sure that they're on board with getting this land, with having to insure it, you know, maintain it, do all the things to it that they are responsible for, and they are the water commissioners also. So that would be probably a really good forum to find out what their, you know, what the town's desire is as far as people on that property. The idea of restricting public access to it came from the water division. So that's what I believe they said they wanted, was not to have people just, you know, using it like a recreation piece of land. They didn't want people to, you know, to do passive recreation there or any kind of recreation there. So if they've changed their minds or there's some possibility of something different, I mean, I think you would maybe get it right from the source.
But ultimately, I mean, I really don't think we're too far apart. I mean, when I look at this section, I would just say, I mean, in my opinion, maybe either split the difference or take the split rail, move it up along the slope, actually keep the vegetation where you have it shown on the section, just move the fence on the other side of it, but bring it up a little bit. That's really where we're at. And maybe then the last thing is, do we extend the fence, because where you show it now, or do we extend it to the property line? That seems maybe reasonable.
I think it goes to the property line itself.
Yeah, where I come down is.
Then I can still
split rail
walk around
fence.
the end of it.
Split rail fence is fine for me.
I'm trying to keep the property owner from clearing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But as I say, from my standpoint, a split rail fence would be fine. It doesn't matter to me whether you put the vegetation on either side, although it would make sense to put it behind it, on it, and I would extend it down so that I collect lot 3. And how far down, Steve, do you think it has to go?
I think it just goes to wherever
To
the
right- to the corner of
150
the property
crosses
line?
his
Yeah.
property line, right?
Because all you want to do is keep it from clearing it.
That's where we carried it to, because at this location on lot
Oh, I
3,
couldn't
that's where
tell with the way you
150
drew it
goes
there.
off. If you'll, on this grading plan, you'll see that the fence goes right to the 150, but the 150 goes off into the open space. If you wanted to extend it down, this is the access to the basin. This would be the bottom of a slope here. But it certainly could be extended.
But the 150 does come back right to the corner of the drainage parcel and Lot 3.
Yeah, it comes
I think
back
they
on.
all intersect
Oh, it does?
right at the back corner.
So, yeah, that would be a reasonable, I think, accommodation. Bring it to the lot corner.
Okay. So, are we in agreement?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay, so you're not going to go to the back corner, you're going to go to where it intersects the first
I
point?
No,
Bob
we'll
was
go to
just
the
saying
back
to the
corner
lot
of the
corner.
lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, so we'll take it to be split rail to the back corner on lot 3, vegetation in front of or behind?
I would say behind.
I would say behind.
Okay, vegetation behind the fence.
Then you just let it, there'd be, in that case, no pruning, nothing. I mean, it just goes wild. Whereas at least if it were me and it was in front of it, and I'm just saying, I'm speaking to me, I'd have more of an indication that I'd want to go trim it, put Christmas lights on it, do those that's just me. So,
Can put Christmas lights on the fence,
I
too.
make yourself a note, not to sell a lot to him.
I guess what I'm saying, I'd have much less reason to touch it if it was behind the fence.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right.
Okay, let me,
Where the 150 line dips back and then comes back, what type of vegetation is there now? I mean, we're not.
natural forest.
natural, so,
Yeah.
Woods, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
so the drainage easement's gonna kinda come down, and obviously that'd have to be cleared to some extent, but,
Not the
We're not- we're not
150,
going
not
there
on the
anyway.
other side of the
No.
150, it's not,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, well, no, I was just thinking about the fence coming down the lot line. If they-
Oh, I
if
see,
they weren't-
that's
if
gonna
they
be,
weren't
that's gonna be in the woods at that point,
That
is
that
what
was
you're
my
saying,
thought,
Bob,
is
right?
if they're not gonna, if they're gonna make, obviously they need access for the drainage basin, they aren't necessarily gonna clear all the way to the lot line and just to run a fence.
So would we have it at the at the point where
That's where I was kinda
clearing
thinking
stops?
is, yeah, how do we, if we have to get to the drainage thing, we gotta get around the fence, or the fence has to stop somewhere.
Oh, the easement's on the inside of the
Yeah.
fence. The
Oh,
easement's
okay.
right over the person's lot.
Right, but in this case, what we're saying is that you're not gonna cut the trees that are on
Just
the
to put
far
up the
side of the
fence.
easement, and so now we've got a fence running through a forest, basically.
Well,
The edge
I
of
mean,
a forest.
it's gonna be
From the-
graded there. It's all gonna be cleared there.
Well,
It's not gonna
the
be
part that's
forest on
cleared
the
for the
inside.
easement.
Right here that I
And-
Yeah,
kinda
I get what Bob's saying.
curious about.
Why
I mean,
wouldn't the
I can
fence follow the
understand if they were-
clearing line
Yeah.
Yeah.
as
How-
opposed to the lot
how-
line?
You know,
dense
instead
is
of
it,
going
though?
through
I
the
mean-
woods out here to the back corner, if
Yeah.
they're only gonna clear to here and, you know.
I
I think it
agree.
was to stop people dumping. It was for a whole
Yeah.
bunch
Yeah,
of
yeah,
things.
well, this would do the same thing, either way. I think it should follow the clearing line. That
That's
makes
what I'm
more
thinking, as
sense.
opposed to the lot line where
Yeah.
it might just run through the woods as
Oh, I
opposed
see
to-
what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So we go to the cleared line.
The clear, yeah, the
Okay.
boundary that we're gonna end up with.
Yep.
Let's see if we can wrap up. The other one we need to talk about is granite curbing.
So, right now, the proposal is at the radii where you meet Country Way and at any
Okay,
structures.
Yeah.
You go granite there and bituminous everywhere else?
Yep, I think that's what we discussed, but we didn't officially vote last time. While you're looking for that, I guess the thing that we talked about was having all the street trees on the inboard side of the sidewalk.
On the property owner's side, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's definitely a good idea.
We need to vote that.
It's shown on the plan.
I think it's shown correctly on
I
the
think,
plan
yeah.
that we
Yeah,
did.
I think you still need the waiver for it.
Oh,
We
Yeah,
still
you
need to vote it?
Waiver, right?
Oh, because you asked, the bylaw asked for them on both sides.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so we're going to exclude,
Okay, so I need a motion both for the granite curb and the street trees.
Let's,
We have one to read, or do we just pitch it?
where are we with the granite curbs?
Let's see where we
Well,
are with the grant.
we had a,
I think we discussed the fact
We
that
had a
this was like a
discussion.
driveway, and I shouldn't say
but
a
I-
driveway, but
I'd
it's
say
a
in this-
small,
In this case.
yes.
I think bituminous is appropriate for a three-lot, subdivision with a restricted amount of pavement and, the hammerhead as opposed to the cul-de-sac configuration. I wouldn't be so sure that it's the best way to go on a larger development, but certainly here.
Greg said you were gonna go with a granite around the radius of the intersection.
The plan here doesn't specify that. I think we'd be willing to do that if that's what the board would require.
Yeah, I
There's
think we
no-
should do
And
that.
at the
Yeah.
drainage
There's no
structure,
granite
right?
to tie into.
Right.
Yeah, I know we
Country
talked
Way. It's
about
just
that.
edge of pavement up
Right.
there. So I did not specify granite.
I still think we're doing it at on Clap Road, and there's no granite and Clap either, so
Yeah.
I would like to see it done.
Just defines sort of the entry
Why
a
don't you
little
make a
bit.
motion?
I move that we require granite curbing, vertical granite curbing on the radii where the new roadway meets Country Way and at any drainage structures within the new roadway.
And you're gonna waive all the other requirement for that.
And that we waive requirement for granite curbing elsewhere in the subdivision.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
You want to make a motion on the street trees all on one side?
Yes, I'll do that. I move that we allow the applicant to install street trees as shown on the plan only on the, what is that, the south side, southeast side of the roadway, and not on both sides as required by the bylaw wording.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Now, do we need, let me go back to the street alignment. Do we need a waiver, or can we just make a determination that if they don't line up, it's a de minimis?
Well, I think we
Just
could
do a waiver.
make a motion that we accept the alignment as shown, with the understanding that the center line of pavement of the new road and Black Beach is the alignment criterion, not the center of right-of-way.
That sounds like a good motion.
Second.
Discussion?
Any discussion?
If we do that, are all the other ones the center of the easements, the center lines? So in other words, should we make a waiver here and make sure we leave the center line of the easements, how we would do it in every other instance?
We don't want this to take
Well,
precedence.
This is just,
over-
well, right, I think this is
Okay.
definitely case by case, but we're only doing it for this one.
No, that's why I say let's
Situation.
waive it as opposed to
Yeah, I
As
think
opposed
that
to-
makes sense.
Oh, I see.
identify the center lines of the
Precedent with
pavement
that.
being the thing that establishes in accordance with the bylaw, right?
Okay.
Page
got it.
56,
Thank you.
Laura.
I see.
Page 56,
Alignment.
thanks.
So,
It says streets entering on opposite
Alignment,
sides.
okay.
Oh, if it says street center line.
It doesn't say
street-
center, it says streets entering on opposite side. It doesn't define center line, pavement, or
Directly
right of
opposite
way.
or
It
with a
says streets
minimum
entering.
offset,
I think the
uh,
definition of street is the right of way, though.
so in this case, I
That's
propose
the way
that
it
we,
usually is, the street is the right of way.
Yeah, it doesn't define it. I
Doesn't
looked.
divide it. And other ones I've looked at, it's sort of the standard is kind of like that.
So I think you're waiving section 721, paragraph 2, alignment, subparagraph B.
Okay.
That sounds good. I
Okay.
so move.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Beautiful little design there.
No, I think we've got about as far as we're gonna be able to go.
That's the primary.
How about the soil?
Coffee.
Oh, I don't think we need that, because we've come back up, we've already agreed it.
we already have that correspondence that went out
We've already agreed
allowing
that the
it.
Board of Health could witness it, and that's what they had done.
So we don't need a waiver to accept that.
Okay, we have one, if someone wants to make it, we have the section and everything all, is this top one.
Oh, the soil one? Okay. I move that we waive section 6.3.4.2A requirement, soil evaluation in the area of the infiltration basin evaluated by a qualified soil scientist or registered professional engineer and witnessed by the town's agent.
Again, the only thing that I don't know is where I am.
The waiver requirement for soil evaluation in the infiltration basin be witnessed by the town's agent as testing was done by a DEP soil evaluator and registered professional engineer and was witnessed by the Board of Health, you said?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, according to the soil logs we got anyway.
Yep.
So I gotta add on.
So I have a second for the motion?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Aye.
Sorry.
So I think we've reached closure on all of the outstanding items with the exception of the DEP issue. Lawrence, I agree with you. You agree
Yeah.
with that?
Yeah.
Greg, you agree with that?
Yes.
Did we physically vote the fence?
No, I don't think we
No,
did,
okay.
actually.
We need to.
We need that, right?
I need a motion for the fence.
Fence motion.
Okay.
Well, do we want to have a specific distance or?
Move that the PVC split rail fence is acceptable, as shown on the plan, extended to the back lot line of Lot 3 along the line of clearing, along said lot line, or at that lot line, and that the shrubbery shown on the plan be located on the open space side of the fence, and that the fence alignment be approximately 5 feet back from the edge of pavement along the northwest side of the street and properties.
Second.
Second for that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now that closes all the items. What I'd like to do is to put you on the 30th at 9 o'clock.
Now, I have a question. What Greg was saying about the DEP, will we know on the 30th? Or,
They're coming out the 16th, right?
Right, but if
Yeah,
they
they're coming out
decide
on the 16th. I think you should
to
get
sit on
something
it.
by then. If not, you can do what you were just doing with the, where you can make it contingent, conditional on their denial of the appeal, I guess, or the appeal.
or concurrence with the present location.
Yeah, because the
What I
appeal's
envision
gonna
on the-
hold everything up anyway.
What I envision on the 30th is doing the same thing that we did with 214. That's basically go through the findings of facts, conditions, everything else, so that you've got a bundle that's ready to go.
Mhm. Except for whatever.
Except for,
Whatever.
so either get a confirmation that shows the 150 line being the way that we think it is, or it's described, or it's not.
Yep.
Laura, will you be out there with,
I'll be out there.
Would you be considering at that point, Bill, to, if DEP has not ruled to vote this project conditionally upon their concurrence?
Well, I think we'd have all the conditions and findings of fact ready to go once we get DEP's decision. Would I do it without having DEP's, given the potential lawsuits and everything else with this thing? The answer is probably no. And I suspect that you'd probably go the same way. Yeah. But what I've got is the 30th is an odd meeting. We got a situation where I need Eric. Eric is one of the voting members. Eric is available on the 30th, but will not be available on a regular scheduled meeting prior to or after. So if it's agreeable to you, at your request, we will continue this to 9 o'clock on the 30th.
It's agreeable.
so requested?
Let it be written.
okay. Well,
Thank you.
I can make that motion.
Go ahead.
Oh, there's another?
Oh, you've got it, good.
Okay. I move to accept the applicant's request to continue the public hearings for the definitive subdivision plan, flexible open space special permit, and scenic road public shade tree hearing for White Ash Farm Lane at 305 Country Way until January 30th, 2014, at 9 p.m., and to continue the time for action until March 21st, 2014.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good. That puts us right on schedule.
Pretty cool.
Next item on the agenda.
Good night.
Good night,
Good night,
Michael.
thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is a public hearing for accessory dwelling special permit for 275 Chief Justice Cushing Highway. Peter Bongizel.
Yes, sir.
Sit down, make yourself comfortable, and tell us what you're planning on.
Thank you. Planning on putting a one-bedroom apartment in my basement for my son to live in, our son, my wife and I, at 275 Chief Justice Cushing Highway.
That's the one in the front on the right?
Yes.
You're working on that one?
Excuse me?
The one they're doing all the work on?
Correct.
Because I think you got the occupancy permit for the one behind it.
Correct.
So it's a one-bedroom in the basement.
Yes. There's a walkout basement with a 6-foot slider.
That's the only access.
No, there's a front. The way it is when you walk in the front door, there's an egress at the front door, it's private entrance, and the slider in the back.
So it's like, when you come in the front door, it's like a raised ranch?
Correct. Well, not a raised ranch. Let me show you the plans.
This, are we looking at
Do you have them there?
A3, is that the one?
The permit set?
So is this the front door here, I assume?
Is the house in front there?
Yes.
Okay. So you come up to a covered porch and walk into it, and then how do you get to the, and you go down to get to the,
When you walk in the front door, the doors on the left, and then there's two double doors, goes into the first floor.
oh, I see, door goes downstairs to the basement?
Correct.
And then, is there any other
So that
means of
slider,
egress
Right
out?
on,
yeah, the slider.
Yeah, there's in the
Where's that?
back where the deck is.
Underneath the deck,
correct.
Oh, down here.
yeah, two
And-
is the designation.
And these windows are 5'6" windows.
Okay, so that's a legal egress also.
And where's the parking?
To the left of the garage.
To the left of the garage.
I took away with the asphalt driveway and put pervious pavers for
That's
both
this here?
driveways.
This piece here? Is that what I'm looking at?
There's a mini wall to the left as you
Here.
face the building.
Correct, here. This is the main driveway in front of the garage.
Yep.
Then here's the
Okay.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And that parking's just off the driveway then?
Correct, it goes straight to the common drive.
Yeah. Okay.
Is all of the drainage,
Yes,
the big basement, the big basin, is that?
they're in place, two of them,
Yeah. That's completely, it's.
yes.
well done.
And how big is it?
Talking about drainage?
I'm sorry?
What were you talking about?
I was talking about the basin.
Oh. I went out there, and I think there's some erosion that you're gonna fix?
They're in place now, everything's
Oh,
been,
it's been fixed?
everything's been fixed and in
Okay.
place, and hay's there, and seed planted, and one thing,
The swale on the other side of the driveway. I mean, it's been so cold, I don't know how they could possibly have dug it in there,
well, we were lucky a couple of weeks it was warm enough to
Warm.
get it done.
right?
Because it looks like work's been done on both sides of the driveway going, I was up there this afternoon.
Yes.
This morning. And walked around, so as I say, it looked to me that work had been done. I didn't know whether it was
was
final
completed.
grading.
The only thing left to do is to do the top coat for the driveway, but because of the conditions, it's a little difficult right now.
Getting asphalt right now. How big is the accessory dwelling?
I believe it's 850 in that area.
850 square feet.
Compared, does the math work? Guess
Yeah,
is the
the
question?
math works.
Okay.
So, yeah, the math works. There's some space there for parking on the far side of the house. The only downside that I see that's, a little bit of a downside really is coming out onto 3A. It's just, it's a difficult traffic situation, and you got a real tight site for two houses, and this is another unit there, but, I don't know if you want to.
Looks to me
Yeah,
like
how you
it's a right
consider
turn out of your driveway.
That's the
I
best
think
way
it's
to
the right
go, and you
turn.
go right around.
You
the
go
road.
around, yeah.
Go around the rotary, come
That's what I
back.
did earlier
Yeah.
today. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you ever want to try to go left, but,
No.
but anyway, it is a tight site, but it is what it is. I guess you could think of it as kind of an urban, setting. Mr. Bongerzone had me come out there to see if some trees would fit in front of the detention basin, and there really wasn't space for them. It's just
Yeah.
that tight.
What I would have to do is scale the size of the tree down would work.
Yeah, maybe some shrubs.
Correct.
You're sitting right on the right of way for that road. Because I remember when it was approved, that basin had to be moved a couple of times to get it, so. that-
Right.
Right, and actually, the house moved back 2 feet also. And that,
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think any plantings, you take the
Or is this
chance that you're going to
basin?
further
City?
obscure your views of the road and traffic and all of that. It might be better to leave it open. Yeah, in here. Highway is right.
If they put something low in there,
Yeah, it'd have to be really low and stay low.
Well,
Yeah.
it would be for at least 15 feet, so you have more than enough area to pull your car out without any obstruction,
Yeah.
north or south.
You know, I don't know if you've got room, but if you're doing a new drive for this unit, is there any way you could put a T hammerhead in there so I got a chance to turn around and not back out onto the highway, but come out head first?
There's a turnout there, till you go out, you'll go out face first as opposed to backing out.
Okay, so you can do that.
Oh, no question. That's the only way that I would
Yeah, you
recommend.
never want-
There's a
I turned
hammerhead
around up
there,
there and you had
definitely.
at least three trucks, 2 trucks and a trailer,
Yes.
and working on the house, and I was still able to turn my car around.
All right,
Yes.
fine. So
Bob?
And plus,
see that.
I think
some
this-
sand off to the side in the turnout. Once that's done, there'd be that much more room.
I think what's confusing is this is what's shown as the actual drive, not 3A.
Oh, got it.
Because I did the same thing at first.
I see. I thought this was the highway.
No.
I agree. That's
No,
what I
it's the
thought.
driveway.
Oh, well.
Thank you.
I'm pleased to hear that.
So what you'd do is, you'd back out, and then you'd
Yeah,
drive.
yeah, of course,
Go on the
right,
drive.
right.
So in fact, in this particular plan, like 3A, that isn't even shown.
Got it. It's down here someplace.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
I have just a question for the board. It has nothing to do with you, well, per se. If the regulations had passed at town meeting that we had proposed, how would this be impacted since it's new construction? Didn't we have something that said, I know it's totally moot, but I just was curious, where it was new, you had to wait like 6 months? Is that so how would that have impacted this particular one? Is that correct?
It would have been a delay.
A delay of 6 months? Okay.
You've been living in a bedroom, in the basement.
It's been done before.
That's why we have this bylaw, so that
With 5 children, it's been done before.
Well, it's good to understand that, to know for future, because I think at the time, we hadn't really had one where it was new construction and they were proposing an accessory dwelling at the same time.
Right.
So now here's an example of that, so.
That leads me to something else, not that I want to stay here until 1 in the morning, but what would have happened if the building permit had been pulled with this accessory dwelling in place? In other words, the whole thing had been called one,
A duplex.
would it make it a duplex?
Essentially,
Yeah.
that's what it would be, wouldn't
Yeah,
it?
it'd be a
Yeah.
two-family house.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it wouldn't have had the land area to be built as a duplex, so you
Right.
have to do
So
it as a
you couldn't have
Couldn't have done it right away.
Okay. Interesting. Thank you.
It's always good, theoretical.
Right.
Okay.
Any questions from the board, questions of the public?
No, I think I drive by there every day, it's looking nice.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
I was concerned about the density. That's between the 2 houses and somebody else in there. It's a pretty dense area in terms of the site, but the more I got thinking about it, is I'm sitting there saying, if you want, I don't know whether it's number 1 or number 5 son, it lived with you, right, and it had a bedroom in the house, you'd have the same situation as you'd have as having the accessory dwelling.
That's what I thought, too.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, that was,
Same number of cars, too.
I get the same number of cars, I get the same everything else, except I don't have the separation within the house.
The only difference is mom and dad wouldn't be sleeping as well as night when the doors crashed and so forth.
Correct.
And you have to feed him more often. Now he's got his own kitchen.
Think that's gonna make
Yeah,
a
there's
difference?
still,
Well, probably not.
Mom's a good cook, though.
still a direct path to
Doesn't make
mom's
any difference to my
refrigerator.
I can attest to
24-year-old.
that.
As near as I can figure out, the only difference it makes is whose beer gets drunk. But the point is, okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
I think Richard has a motion.
Yeah, is any other discussion?
No, we're good.
Okay.
Let's go.
So I move to make the following findings of fact concerning the accessory dwelling at 275 Chief Justice Cushing Highway. Number 1, According to the Town of Scituate Assessor's records, the property at 275 Chief Justice Cushing Highway is owned by Old Webster Street LLC, Peter J. and Lorraine P. and I'm going to Bongazone have signed a purchase and sale agreement to purchase the property. The purchase and sale dated to transfer was extended to January 30th, 2014. Number 2, on November 15th, 2013, Mr. Bongerzone applied for a special permit for an accessory dwelling within a single-family house. Number 3, according to the floor plan submitted by the applicant, the first floor and the second floor contain 2,667 square feet. The application indicates that the accessory dwelling at the basement level contains 850 square feet and is 32% of the square footage of the primary dwelling, which is less than the 40% maximum in the bylaw, so the area requirements of section 530.2F are met. The accessory dwelling is also subordinate in size to the primary dwelling. Number 4, the property is located in the residential R2 zoning district. The lot area is 24,797 square feet, of which 24,608 square feet is upland. The existing footprint of the home is proposed to be unchanged. The existing dwelling has 4 bedrooms. The proposed accessory dwelling will be located in the basement and have 1 bedroom. 5, the site plan shows a 2-car garage and driveway of pervious pavers. A new 10-foot wide by 50-foot long driveway of pervious pavers will be constructed for the accessory dwelling. There appears to be adequate space to provide 2 parking spaces for the accessory dwelling and ample parking for the primary dwelling. Number 6, only 1 accessory dwelling is contained on the lot, and it appears to be a separate housekeeping unit. 7, the applicants have submitted a signed, notarized statement that they will live on the property. Number 8, the application meets the standards of Scituate zoning bylaw, section 530, for an accessory dwelling special permit.
Have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. So that was the findings of fact. Now we have the approval. Okay. So I move to approve the accessory dwelling special permit for 275 Chief Justice Cushing Highway with the following conditions. Number 1, the applicant shall meet all requirements of the Building Department, Board of Health, Department of Public Works, Fire Department, Water Department, and other town agencies. Number 2, except for any changes necessary to meet these conditions, any construction shall conform to plans entitled A, Foundation Plan for J. Ellis 275 Chief Justice Highway by Rockwood Design Incorporated, dated 6/28/2013. B, Foundation Certification Plan for Lot 1, portion of 277 to 283 Chief Justice Cushing Highway, dated 8/7/2013, by McKenzie Engineering Group Incorporated for EBC Building Corporation. And C.
Could I interrupt for a second?
Sure.
The number of the house is 275 and 277. Initially, it was 283, but we were told that it had to be 275. So it's 275, 277, as opposed to 277 or 283.
Okay. Portion of 275 to 275 Chief Justice Cushing Highway.
Yes.
Okay. And C, a sketch plan received November 19th, 2013, from the applicants showing pervious pavers for the primary and accessory driveways. Number 3, the property at 275 Chief Justice Cushing Highway shall contain a maximum of 2 dwelling units, the existing dwelling and the accessory dwelling as proposed. The footprint, number of bedrooms, and/or square footage shall not be increased without prior approval of the planning board. The number of bedrooms in the accessory dwelling is limited to 1. Number 4, the owner of the property shall reside on the property as long as it contains an accessory dwelling unit. Number 5, the planning board will require an on-site inspection for conformance to the approved plans and these conditions prior to a certificate of occupancy being issued for the accessory dwelling. Number 6, no on-street parking shall be permitted at any time. Construction vehicles, equipment shall not idle nor be parked, stored, loaded, or unloaded in the street. Number 7, ample parking for the primary and accessory dwelling will be provided as shown on the proposed plan. Pervious pavers must be used for both driveways as approved by the Conservation Commission. Future property owners shall be notified of this condition. Number 8, a stop sign shall be provided at the end of the driveway prior to receiving a building permit for the accessory dwelling. The detention basin must be stabilized, and the swale on the south side of the driveway must be completed prior to an occupancy permit for the accessory dwelling. Number 9, this special permit shall be void if it is not recorded at the Registry of Deeds within 90 days of the date of filing with the town clerk. The owner shall provide proof of this recording to the planning board. Number 10, this special permit shall lapse within 2 years from the date of issuance unless substantial use or construction has commenced prior to that time in accordance with MGL Chapter 40A, Section 9. Number 11, the planning board reserves the right to review compliance with this special permit at any time. The special permit shall terminate if the use is not in accordance with this decision and its conditions. Number 12, at the request of the planning board, an affidavit shall be provided that either the primary or accessory unit is owner occupied. And number 13, at each transfer of ownership of the property, a new affidavit that the owner resides on the property shall be provided to the planning board within 30 days of the transfer.
Can I ask a question? Are you saying to put a stop sign at the end of the driveway? Did I understand that properly?
Yeah, I was actually a little kind of surprised at that, too.
Because that would be an obstruction from the track if you have the stop sign.
Just seems like a good idea, but, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I don't think we need a stop sign.
Okay.
Thank you.
If you don't stop, you're gonna get hit.
It does say at the end of the driveway, so you want to just
Just
delete
take it
8?
out.
Please.
Okay,
Can I just?
yeah.
Delete item 8.
That's a mistake we'll make exactly.
And I wanted to, actually,
We'll put that stop sign in someplace.
I was gonna make a joke about number
Have an
6,
extra
which
one.
was the construction vehicles parked on the road. I'm like, yeah, try that. But anyway,
Do interesting things,
And then,
so.
Second.
so that's complete
all
one,
those
yes.
in favor?
Aye.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
You too.
Thanks a lot.
Next item on the agenda, public hearing, accessory dwelling special permit, 65 Hollis Street. I assume that belongs to you, Ms. Maravito?
Oh, yeah, sure.
That's your word, son.
Sorry.
No, I know, this is,
I didn't realize at the bottom of my pile was the MAPC calendar. Ooh,
So,
Not everyone got one, you know, so don't.
Okay, Paul, off you go.
The owner and applicant of the property, Barbara Leiden and her husband, Jeffrey, supposed to have their mother-in-law reside in the left portion of the existing dwelling. The line in yellow is the outline of the perimeter of their lot, which is 22,225 square feet. The accessory dwelling would be inside the existing structure. It would be 724 square feet or 24% of the existing gross floor area of the existing dwelling. What we're proposing to do is, there's an existing driveway in this area now. We're showing 4 parking spaces here, 2 for the accessory dwelling and 2 for the owners of the property. There's also a separate water meter being installed for the accessory dwelling. That line would come off the main road down into the existing dwelling. The purpose of that is, that's one of the requirements for accessory dwelling, a water meter. We've also submitted to you a notarized letter from the owner saying that they would occupy one of the units. There's no change in the number of bedrooms.
There was an issue, I guess, wasn't it, the Board of Health sat there and said that,
The Board of Health did review it. In the application, we showed there are 4 existing bedrooms in the house. What we did was to submit a revised plan from the architect showing one of the openings to the bedroom would have a new case opening 4 feet wide, so that doesn't count as a bedroom. So the count stays the same. The septic system was designed for 3 bedrooms originally, and we have 3. And Jennifer has that information. Other than that, there's been no other changes, so we have to answer any questions you may have.
Where's the, do we have the footprint?
so it's all in the existing building, there's
Yeah,
no other changes other than the driveway and the water service.
Yes.
So which plan is it shown on here? A1?
A1 shows this family room being made into the
Yeah.
living and kitchen area, and what's now called an office being made into.
Okay, so it's kind of this,
Yeah, that's
this
how I read it.
is the apartment?
Yeah.
Laura, you got any comments?
Yeah, no, I
Oh,
think
this too,
there's
right,
no
the new
change in
bath.
the footprint,
Yeah.
right?
Pardon?
No change in the footprint of the house, right? No change in the footprint?
No.
Yeah, and it's 724 square feet, so there's really no issues with it. The bedroom that has to be decommissioned, the doors being taken off, the doors being widened, so it's not a bedroom.
Where's the egress?
Is that up on the
One here.
She has one in the front.
and
Right
then-
here?
She has one in the front and
This-
one in the
And
back.
then one to
There's
the
in back.
This goes right outside this way?
Yes.
Yeah,
There's
there's
the one on the
two
front.
means of egress
The
there.
common entry area here.
Which one, on the upper
Oh,
floor,
this.
which bedroom is
really
being
this, right?
decommissioned, so to
I
speak?
think it
Is it
Got questions from the board?
Oh,
is master bedroom, yeah, I think.
which one, I'm just looking at the A3, on the second floor, which bedroom is getting the cased opening?
A3, it's the one in the upper right-hand corner.
So what it's labeled as, this door would no longer exist then? They're just trying to
That's
figure.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's gonna be a new open face entryway. We just made 4-foot wide opening in the door. There's no doors on
A queen-size desk? With a queen-size desk?
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's the craft room or something.
Yeah.
Model
Yeah.
Soft top.
Sewing.
That's where the loom goes.
it. I should show that on the plans from the queen-size desk.
No, you're better off not.
Yeah, really.
Okay.
Put a
Questions
pool
from the
table
board?
on there.
Bed.
Motions? You have a motion from the board?
Yeah, I think there is. I move to make the following findings of fact concerning the accessory dwelling at 65 Hollitt Street. Number one, according to the Town of Scituate's assessor's records, the property at 65 Hollitt Street is owned by Jeffrey F. and Barbara L. Lyden. Number two, on November 26, 2013, the applicants applied for a special permit for an accessory dwelling within a single-family house. Number three, according to the application and floor plan submitted by the applicant, the proposed accessory dwelling contains 724 square feet. This is less than the 750 square foot maximum allowed in the bylaw, so the area requirements of section 530.2F are met. Number four, the property is located in the residential R2 zoning district. The lot area is 22,225 square feet. The existing footprint of the home is proposed to be unchanged. The existing dwelling has 3 bedrooms. There will be no increase in the number of bedrooms in the dwelling, as there will be a reduction of bedrooms on the second floor from 3 to 2. 5, the site plan shows that the driveway will be expanded to accommodate 4 9-foot by 18-foot parking spaces on a bituminous concrete surface. There appears to be adequate space to provide 2 parking spaces for the accessory dwelling and ample parking for the primary dwelling. Number 6, only 1 accessory dwelling is contained on the lot, and it appears to be a separate housekeeping unit. Number 7, the applicants have submitted a signed, notarized statement that they will live on the property. Number 8, the application meets the standards of Scituate zoning bylaw, section 530, for an accessory dwelling special permit.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. All right, based on those findings of fact, I move to approve the accessory dwelling special permit for 65 Hollitt Street with the following conditions. Number 1, the applicant shall meet all requirements of the Building Department, Board of Health, Department of Public Works, Fire Department, Water Department, and other town agencies. Number 2, except for any changes necessary to meet these conditions, any construction shall conform to plans entitled A, Sheet A-1, First Floor Plan by Custom Home Designs dated 11/21/13 and revised on 12/9/13 for the Leiden residence, showing the proposed 724 square foot accessory dwelling. B, Sheet A-2, Second Floor Plan by Custom Home Designs dated 12/9/13 for the Leiden residence, showing 2 bedrooms and an office on the second floor. C, Site Plan for Accessory Dwelling at 65 Hollitt Street in Scituate, Massachusetts by Ross Engineering Company, Incorporated, dated 11/22/13 for Jeffrey F. and Barbara L. Leiden. Number 3, the property at 65 Hollitt Street shall contain a maximum of 2 dwelling units, the existing dwelling and the accessory dwelling as proposed. The footprint, number of bedrooms, and/or the square footage shall not be increased without prior approval of the planning board. The number of bedrooms in the accessory dwelling is limited to 1. Number 4, the owner of the property shall reside on the property as long as it contains an accessory dwelling unit. Number 5, the planning board will require an on-site inspection for conformance to the approved plans and these conditions prior to a certificate of occupancy being issued for the accessory dwelling. Number 6, no on-street parking shall be permitted at any time. Construction vehicles, equipment shall not idle, nor be parked, stored, loaded, or unloaded in the street. 7, ample parking for the primary and accessory dwelling will be provided as shown on the proposed plan. Number 8, this special permit shall be void if it is not recorded at the Registry of Deeds within 90 days of the date of filing with the town clerk. The owner shall provide proof of this recording to the planning board. Number 9, this special permit shall lapse within 2 years from the date of issuance unless substantial use or construction has commenced prior to that time in accordance with MGL Chapter 40A, Section 9. Number 10, the planning board reserves the right to review compliance with this special permit at any time. The special permit shall terminate if the use is not in accordance with this decision and its conditions. Number 11, at the request of the planning board, an affidavit shall be provided that either the primary or accessory unit owner is occupied. Number 12, at each transfer of ownership of the property, a new affidavit that the owner resides on the property shall be provided to the planning board within 30 days of the transfer.
Ready for a second?
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Start the signature.
Do we have bills that have to be paid?
Okay.
I move that we pay $41.60 to who but W.B. Mason for office supplies, and $1,265 to Chesia Consulting Services for the peer review for 305 Country Way, and $2,225 to Chesia Consulting Services for the peer review for the 50 Country Way mixed-use special permit. I guess that's that, permit.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good minutes that need to be done.
A couple, you got a.
You need to sign
another
those?
bill, don't you?
Oh, there was three. Oh,
Oh, okay.
no, I think there was just the three.
Okay. So, great. So, you can sign it. Okay, and you got minutes?
Oh, there's minutes too?
You want me to read those while he signs?
Yeah.
I move that we approve the minutes for the Scituate Planning Board meeting dated October 10, 2013, and the meeting dated December 19, 2013.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I voted present on the 19th.
Oh, what were the two dates? I'm sorry.
October 10
No,
and December 19.
okay, those are fine.
Yeah. But I wasn't here on the 19th, so I can't vote on it.
I wasn't here on the 19th either.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, because I wasn't here on the 5th, and I didn't want to be saying yes, although I did read them word for word. And by the way, thanks for the shout out on the video on the 5th. You were like, we're going to wait for, or do we have any bills? Or are we waiting for Richard for that? Okay.
You get the town planners report?
You just need three.
Well, wouldn't he put pressure on you, but you're between us and Bob's motion.
Okay,
And while you're getting that together, our meeting on the 30th will be here.
Well, I don't think we know yet, right?
well, most likely, but yeah.
You just
Okay.
need three on these, right?
Yep.
Just a little progress report on the consulting engineer. Bill and Kevin Cafferty and I are gonna be sitting down, I think, with all of them, because we got 5 responses for,
Oh, really?
well, actually, we don't have to just have 3. We could, have as many or as few as we want, but we're gonna talk to all 5 and then make some kind of a recommendation to you all. And then,
Are they some of the same group we've been working with, or?
yeah, Amory and John Chessie are both, wanting
Okay.
to reapply,
And
and then
we picked
there's,
up Tibbetts,
yeah, Merrill,
Environmental, and Merrill.
Merrill Engineering, and then, yeah, Environmental Partners.
Yeah.
And then also, some of you who expressed interest in going already know that the meeting with Walnut Tree Hill is scheduled. It's going to be part of the Street Acceptance Committee meeting, and that's going to be on January 14th. So that should be interesting.
I'll plan to be there.
6 o'clock.
And you're gonna be there.
That's
We'll visit to the world. At 6 o'clock, it's in this room.
What date is January 14th?
It's a
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
And I think the boss has got one at 7:30, she's going to,
Yeah, she said she'd see you then.
yeah.
What's the meeting minutes? Or am I gonna forget it?
And I'm not sure where my time is.
And I think that's all.
Okay.
Oh.
CPC, not CPC, yeah, CPC, did you send that the soft copy, or?
No, I got your email late in the day, and I was going to send it all out together.
Okay, so the soft copy's coming out on
Okay, let's see.
proposal that's in front of the CPC for its multi-purpose trail on Tilden Road. Remember when we put in Tilden Farms? Right, we came back up and we extended the sidewalk as far as we could before we ended up with right-of-way issues and that. What we've now got is a proposal in front of CPC to basically come back up and to put a multi-purpose trail along Tilden so that it'll allow all the kids that are headed down towards Wampatuck to be able to walk there. We also talked about taking it and bringing it up from Tilden, up Beaver Dam towards the ball field, up towards, was it Guilford?
Yeah, the big salt bucks.
Yeah, but it's up to do it that way. The issue
Past
there,
the ball field.
you bring it up to the ball field. You would bring it up into the corner of the street. But the issue there is we need to talk to the T to find out what it takes for the railroad
tracks.
crossing.
To go across, yeah.
I
Plus,
think
there's a
on-
lot of wetlands, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Well, it could go on either side. On
wetlands are
as
on
you're
both
going up the
sides.
hill, on the left-hand side, I think that's town-owned property. But there is wetlands in there.
Yeah.
So that may not come to pass. What we're gonna look to do is to come back up and probably design, engineer phase one, look to permitting for phase two, and then make that, the ballpark a phase three piece. So, but anyway, so that's the handout that was there. There's also, I think you got a copy of the Max Tracks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right, that proposed piece of property they talk about on the front page is being proposed for CPC purchase.
Right.
It's about 37, just under 40 acres at about $17,000 a pop. So, but it could have the potential of being like a 26-house subdivision in there. So that's the alternative, so you may want to look at those two. I got 313, Lisa Fenton, who's the chair of CPC, is going to be coming in and talking, but if you have a chance to look at, particularly Tilden, it would be good to,
So you haven't sent this out yet?
it'll go out soft copy sometime for tomorrow.
Probably tomorrow or Monday.
Yeah, I just got the soft copy late this afternoon. And then, what else? Oh, we got EDC. EDC got funded, so they now have a budget.
Yep, they have a very healthy budget.
Good.
So I attended that meeting the other night.
The report is also getting some revisions. There were some like little inaccuracies because they don't, the planners from MEPC don't really know Scituate like, people that live here and so on. So it got, fixed. And they're reviewing the fixes, and then it's gonna, go to the selectmen sometime, maybe February, maybe March. So I'm hoping the whole thing can be, public before town meeting, because it really does dovetail with that village business overlay district change.
Sure.
So we'll see how that goes.
Speaking of that, I know, I sent you an email about that, about the, now I can't remember the name of the in Cambridge. I want to say Whitewater Rafting Company, no, whatever. Blackwater, Black Pond.
Bluestone.
Bluestone.
Thank you. Actually, that's really
Bluestone,
important.
Whitewater.
I circulated a proposal
Northern
by
Whitewater.
Yeah, I
Larry
saw that.
Bluestone, $1,600. The money's in our budget. If we don't use it, we lose it. And what that would be to put something together as far as illustrating some of the concepts in that bylaw that are a little bit hard for people to, people that are not architects, to understand, like the roof pitch and the facade, the variations in the plane of the facade and.
But it was
that
also
sort of
about
thing.
what the district would encompass too, is right? At least I read that. I mean, you were.
Yeah, I'm hoping he would do that for us
Okay.
too, for town meeting, but almost, independent of the bylaw, I think it'd be nice to get those illustrations right into the zoning bylaw, and they'd have to be adopted in that way.
So
but-
these would be diagrammatic as opposed to pictorial. I mean, if you put them in the
Yeah,
zoning bylaw.
They'd have, measurements and
Yeah,
so on and
right.
show, yeah.
I was impressed with that, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Especially at quarter of a
Definitely a
month.
$50 word. So are you all, I don't know if you want to vote or just give me a feeling of
I
kind of
think
yes or.
we should do
We
it.
should do it.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic.
Great.
As long as, right, as long as we have the money, and especially if we're gonna lose it. If
You got a unanimous vote to go forward with it.
That's
Great, okay, good, thank you.
Anything else before Bob's motion?
Well, I have one thing. I don't know if, maybe we've already done this and I don't remember, but we should congratulate you on your award that you received with the Marshfield Town Planner for
Oh,
the
correct, yeah.
seawater rise. I think we should give her. Very impressive.
Well done.
Nice.
Well done, very impressive.
Now we know Front Street's gonna flood.
Really surprised.
And the
Having
other,
seen that the other week, yes.
I just had a question. I don't know if you were following it, but
Top floor?
I saw something in the paper about
Second floor.
town conservation, or town land.
Yard, though, is.
That was like conservation land, but there was, I think, out somewhere in western Massachusetts, the town was actually like suing to make it part of the tax records.
Yeah, there's a, yeah, the.
And they were saying that if that went through and it
Land
actually.
trusts and
yeah,
people like that would have to pay taxes on it.
exactly.
I mean, who knows how that's gonna come out.
But I mean, I guess we've been kind of following that, or just
The
just
conservation-
tangentially.
The conservation agent is definitely
Okay,
following it.
okay. It just something was.
He sent, I think, the same article around, he sent it to Rick Murray and copied me, and Rick Murray said something back
Oh,
and
okay.
said that, you know,
We have
hopefully
to
that
wait.
wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
and- Yeah, so.
Okay.
So we got a motion.
Second.
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you guys for hanging in there. It was a long night.
When are we getting the?